Okay, we are live on Facebook and live on Zoom.
All right, welcome everyone to the Wednesday, December 6th, 2023 regular meeting of the Cohasset School Committee. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'll just start with calling a roll call. We do have two members that will be late to the meeting, but we do have, well, we'll see as we do roll call, have 3 out of 5, and that will give us a quorum. So I'll go for Ms. Leskey.
Present.
Ms. McClellan? Mr. Dial, present. That's 3 of the 5. Therefore, we have a quorum and we can proceed with business. As I mentioned, Mr. Kearney and Mr. Carr are running late. They will be here in due course. So with that, we will do the customary pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right. That's the best pledge of allegiance we've had, and I think we owe a lot to our attendees. I don't know if you can see it at home, but we have a lot of special invited guests today, so we're going to get right into that after public comment. I do want to make 2 notes for the good of the order. There are 2 agenda items that we will not be addressing on this meeting. One is an agenda block E, a special education update. We're going to move that to a later meeting. And also we have on the agenda item an executive session that will also move to a later meeting, although that's probably less relevant for attendees since that would just be us going dark and you wouldn't be able to see anything anyway. So with that, we'll quickly move into public comment. Do we have any comments from the public? These are comments. This is your opportunity. If you have anything that's not addressing something on the agenda, or if you want to make sure we address you when we do reach a comment that you have on something on the agenda.
At this point, there is no comment.
There are no public comments. All right, with that, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome our invited guests from the Joseph Osgood School. I guess, Dr. Sullivan, do you want to do the intros?
Well, I would love to introduce Principal Farrell, who can introduce her crew. This is Rise and Shine with Osgood. I just have to say, I'm always so happy with Osgood, and any opportunity I have to go there, which is, all the time, brightens my day. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I did say this would probably be the highlight of the school committee meeting, but not that other things
No
aren't
pressure,
good.
though.
But I'd like to introduce Principal Farrell to introduce her team.
Good evening, thank you very much. And I want to take this moment just to thank the parents and family members for interrupting your evening to be here and have everyone, all of our friends here. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. I'm going to lead in with Ms. Phillips, Ms. Ripley, and Ms. Carrabba is going to be at the end. And we're going to come in and sit in our welcoming circle.
Right. Mommy.
So what,
guys.
Welcome.
Hello.
Good to see
well, I can't say
you.
good morning, but we can pretend it's morning. Good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah. Love the smiling faces.
Miss Clara.
So what we're going to do is we're going to present a live morning exercise, which is our morning circle. And we make it a little bit bigger and move back this way just a little bit, okay, guys?
It's hard, there's not really a circle.
Your lips.
We'll have to learn about our other shapes. Come on, this way here. Here. There we go. There we go. Now everybody's got a little bit of space. Excellent.
Perfect.
I'm very fortunate, as I always say, working at the Osgood, that being my second home. There are plenty of reasons why, but this is probably the most important reason, is the students and the excellent faculty. Everyone there seemed to be very excited when they joined the Osgood, when we walk in. And this small sampling right here is a sampling of our first grade students who are going to be with Ms. Ripley, Mrs. Carrabba, and Mrs. McPhillips, showing us what a morning meeting looks like. And before we begin, I just want to I promise it'll be 4 minutes or less. On last Thursday, November 30th, we had a social emotional family night series where family members could come, and it was myself, Mr. Vinton, Mr. Lay, and various teachers were there, and they presented, after we spoke, what you're going to see tonight. They presented what a morning meeting looks like. That was very well attended. We had about 40 people there. On Friday, we had our first meeting with Mrs. Farrell, coming in and just talking. Was muffins with Mrs. Farrell. I think we're gonna go with hot fudge sundaes the next time, because that seems better to me. And this was at 9:30, so it'll be later. At both events, we had 7 parents attended, 7 family members. At both events, we talked about social emotional components of the Osgood, the language we use, the resources families can use when making a connection with their child about what's going on at school, their behaviors and their emotions. We also talked about tools that students can use at school to help them feel comfortable and complete their schoolwork. I'd like to take just a moment to thank the CEF. Last year, Ms. Curtin wrote a grant, and in the grant, she wrote for us to have in kindergarten comfortable seats, different seating arrangements. So in kindergarten, you'll find,
Yeah, there you go.
where am I? Oh, they're in. But you'll see at the kindergarten level, these seats here, if students want to sit here, it's a little bit more comfortable. You can finish your work. Not going to show you how it works. And definitely not showing you this one. I think I need an example.
If you could, yeah. If they just-
Well, actually, all right, you do? You want to help me out here? All right, here we go. So when she's sitting, she can be doing her work right there. And it's just a different way to do that. Oh,
Very
beautiful, excellent.
Nice job. Nice job.
So I would like to take a moment just to thank CEF for always supporting us when we're looking for ways to help support our students. So that is one way, and the other is myself, Ms. Curtin, Mr. Vinton wrote a grant last year for a comfy, cozy corner at the Osgood. It's up the top of the stairs, over to the right, and we're starting to have different seating arrangements there, books. Just so if somebody needs to take a walk and go someplace different other than their classroom, that's a great place to go. Without going on too much, we talk about, as I said, big emotions, size of problems, how to work with both. We got some excellent feedback from families on how maybe we could help support families a little bit more. One of the excellent ideas was to put it on our website resources under social emotional, where they can figure out, gee, I need this, we're talking about this at home. The evening concluded with the presentation, with parents being participants in the morning meeting, like we're going to do right now. And I have with me right now 3 wonderful first grade teachers, Miss McPhillips, Miss Ripley, and Miss Caitlin Caraba. If you could introduce your students and then we'll begin.
Certainly. We were planning to introduce every student when we do our.
Oh, I know that whole thing.
Yeah.
Not good with surprises, sorry. Yeah, I'll work on that.
No worries. We were flexible, Mrs. Sarah.
All right, then we'll do it then. I'm going to step aside, stop talking, which isn't easy to do, and it's all yours.
Thank you. So before we begin, just so everyone knows, we greet our students every morning when they come up the stairs at the Osgood School. So Ms. Caraba and I stand at our door and we greet each child. We make sure to say hello to them and ask them to choose the way they would like to say hello back to us. It may be a heart hand, it might be a wave, it may be the peace sign, jazz hands, but that way we introduce them to our community as soon as they arrive at the Osgood School. So now we begin morning greeting. So let's do a sound check, friends. Start here and wake up that brain. Eyes are looking, ears are listening, lips are smiling, shoulders are up. Hearts are open to receive loving kindness. Belly buttons full from breakfast. Knees and toes are grounded to our community. Say good morning to each other. Are you ready?
Good morning, comrade.
Good morning, Mikey.
Good morning, Mrs. McPhee.
Good morning, Les.
Good morning, Miss Crum.
Good morning, Peyton.
Good morning, Mrs. McPhee.
Good morning, Hunter.
Good morning, Miss Caraba.
Good morning, Conrad.
Good morning, Miss McPhee.
Good morning, Paxton.
Good morning, Miss Caraba.
Good morning, Avery.
Good morning, Elijah.
Good morning, Miss Caraba.
Good morning, Grace.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning, Hattie.
Good morning.
Echo me.
Echo me.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
It's so good
It's so good
to see you.
to see you.
We'll sing and
We'll sing and
be happy
be happy
that we'll all learn together again.
that we'll all learn together again.
It's transfixed.
We did. We did. Yes.
So eyes to the print. Echo me.
Echo me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, learners.
Hello, learners.
Today is Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
We will explore
We will explore
3D shapes
3D
and
shapes
their attributes.
and their attributes.
We will also
We will also
map two new
map to new
trick words
trick words
and practice
and practice
glued sounds.
glued sounds.
Will the SSDA
Will the SSDA
send another case
send another case
for us to solve?
for us to solve?
Be sure.
Be sure
Share your smile.
to share your smile
Someone today.
with someone today.
Love Mrs. C.
Love Mrs. C.
and Mrs. McKee.
and Mrs. McPee.
Today is
Today is
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
The 12th month.
the 12th month,
The 6th day.
the 6th day
Of 2023.
of 2023.
For lunch.
For lunch,
I can have
I can have
spaghetti and meatballs.
spaghetti and meatballs.
Or choose something different.
Or choose something different.
Or I brought a lunch from home.
Or I brought a lunch from home.
Our specialist today
Our specialist today
is PE
is
with
PE
Mr. Dykes.
with Mr. Dykes.
Now we are going to have a little moment to turn and talk with our friends. For our turn and talk, our share today, I want you to think in your thought bubble, what is one way you can make someone smile this holiday season? Think about that in your thought bubble. How could you make someone smile? One way. Think about it. When it's in your thought bubble, give us a thumbs up. Mrs. McPee, would you like to practice with me?
I would.
So I'm going to turn and I'm going to make eye contact with my friend, Mrs. McPee. Hi. One way that I can make someone smile this holiday season is I can teach someone a new dance. What about
I
you?
think one way I can make someone smile today is to give someone
Oh,
like that.
I would love that. Thumbs up when you have your one way to make someone smile. You look ready. Go ahead and turn towards your partner, make eye contact, and go ahead and share.
If you would like to join us, any of the school committee, and turn and talk with us, we'd love for you to join us.
That was definitely.
Match me, match me, match me, match me, match me, match me, match me. So we often take a movement break because we've been sitting for a little while. So we do a wiggle and jiggle and do something to get our bodies moving. So we're gonna do a movement break. There's a link you can click. You can join us, audience or school committee members. It's there. Remember, you a yoga part, or you can do the dance part, whatever you feel comfortable. Great, friends, rise.
Then, yeah.
Stay in your safe space.
Yeah.
Oh. Change legs if you need to.
All right.
No,
Is there volume or doesn't matter?
So you get a
Or-
choice. You can
Or,
or you can.
I'm doing the snowman one.
Or the flats.
I'm gonna do the raccoon. Oh, you do it? I want you to do it.
Yoga. I didn't realize it's not. It's just-
It's a snowman.
So many choices. Do yoga.
What is that other little animal there?
Which one?
That's a squirrel.
Yeah, what is that squirrel?
Yes. Right there you go. Do it.
Switch please if you need to. Sure.
I'm gonna,
She's not switching.
I like that one.
that's it.
Do that. Let me see.
Snowman on this one.
Miss McPhillips, I got it.
There you go.
go right to that side.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Or jump. Or jump.
Down, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Little right there.
13, 18.
Match me.
Match me, match me, match me.
And we often end, before we head into our curriculum, which usually is our Haggerty hands, we end with some mindful moments and taking a deep breath and resetting and recharging to get ready for our day.
It was late.
Yeah.
You got it.
Oh. One no.
Does this have volume?
It does.
Oh, yes. That's. What they're doing is, so we can help the audience. They're packing a snowball of all their worries or thoughts or noticing.
Worries are packed tightly in there. Breathe out and throw them far, far away.
Do it again.
Let's try it again. Breathe in as you roll your imaginary snow into a ball. Breathe out and throw those worries far, far away. Let's do it one last time. Breathe in as you pack imaginary snow into a ball. Breathe out and throw the worry as far as you can.
Do a lot of this.
And then we usually say, see you in 2 and 2, take a walk, take a wiggle, a jiggle, do a little chit chat, find somebody you can talk to, and then get ready for Haggerty Hands. And that's how we start our academic day.
Guys. Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
That's what that means.
So one of the things that we're going to talk about is the different vocabulary, the lingo that we use at school. So you heard about mindful moments, you heard about wiggles and jiggles, turn and talk with your friend. We have our zones that we talk about, blue, yellow, red zone, how do we feel? And the other thing that we talk about all the time is, and my friends here understand, how big is the problem? So if you spill a glass of water when you're in the cafeteria, is that a big problem or is that a little problem? It's a little problem. If you're outside at recess and you fall and you scrape your knee and you rip your pants, is that a little bit bigger problem, especially if you don't feel good? It's a little bit bigger, isn't it? And what do we do? Small problems have small solutions. So we want to make sure that we're always thinking about, especially at home during the holiday season, when emotions can get ramped up a little bit, is this a big problem or a small problem? And that's that's one of the things that we work on, because sometimes even as adults, we think big problems are huge and they're really not. I do want to thank the audience, all the parents, thank you, family members for coming. Coming out tonight was huge for us, thank you. I'd like to thank Mrs. Ripley, Mrs. McPhillips, and Mrs. Carrabba for doing a fantastic job. Our students, thank you very much. Ms. McPhillips and Miss Carrabba had their students do this today. And I believe some of them might be watching all of their friends on TV tonight, right?
We did,
Exciting.
we did.
You are definitely, definitely movie stars, explain to your friends. And then we'll make a
Exit
quiet
our-
exit
So
if we
we'll
can.
pretend that we're going
Wonderful.
off to
Well,
Wiggle
thank
and
you,
Jiggle
Principal
and.
Farrell. Thank you, boys and girls. Oh, super. Oh, nice. Look at that, great.
And thank you so much, parents, for lending us your children.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Grace. Get your own name?
Official.
Well, that was just the greatest thing I think I've ever seen. It
It's
happens every day.
a hard act to follow.
I honestly want to start every meeting in my office that way.
No.
And I want to sit down and echo me. That would be really a helpful tool for some of the things I do.
So as a district, we really focused on the social emotional castle competencies. And you saw a lot of them at play there. The 5 castle competencies are self-awareness, social awareness, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and relationship building. And you could see that happening all over that exercise. So it's really nice. And the way we go about it in our pre-K to 5 is through responsible classrooms. So really proud of the work they've done. They've all been trained in it. And it's a powerful tool to settle a class and get them ready for the day.
I feel settled and ready for the rest of this meeting. That's great. Speaking of the rest of this meeting, I think for our next agenda item is a student advisory council liaison report. We have Ms. Grace Shaughnessy here with her own nameplate and everything.
We sure do. And
I'm official now.
this is Grace's first time as a liaison, and she's a really great active member of our superintendent's student advisory committee. And Grace, maybe tell the audience a little bit about some of the things you're involved in school. I know you're a junior.
Yeah,
Um,
so I'm a junior this year. I'm involved in a few clubs. I do medical club and art magazine. And it's funny because a lot of people didn't know that medical club actually existed until this year. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about because we made it more known and we were able to get a lot more freshman and sophomore voice input. So we're doing a lot with that. Mr. Savage, the bio teacher, he's been great. They got suture kits for us so we can learn how to practice that,
Wonderful.
which is something I'm interested in. So it's just like an extra thing, you know, come when you want. It's pretty relaxed, but we do a lot with that. Art magazine, I was surprised the amount of input, like in people that wanted to do it. And Mr. Drew's great with that. It's really organized and, you know, it's really welcoming. Everybody gets to put something in it if they want. So that's great. There's also a green team, and I guess that they just applied for what's called a green ribbon, and it's a program from the U.S. Department of Education that recognizes schools that help reduce environmental impacts. So I don't know if we've found out yet that we received one, but we're definitely on track to.
That's great.
We have new utensils in the cafeteria now. They're supposed to be compostable
Mhm.
and less plastic in them. Now, they're also a lot more sturdy now. They used to be able to bend them in half,
Yeah.
so it's good for that reason too.
And if anybody's seen our cafeterias, you can see that there's composting
Yeah, we do a lot of
stations
that.
there, which is great, reducing food waste.
Yeah, Coach A is great with that. He's always there every day,
Mhm.
making sure you sort your food.
Nice.
So everyone's learning how to do it. So there's no excuse now. So that's great. And as for sports, a lot of teams made it to playoffs. I'm not aware that any of them got a championship this year, but you know, everybody played really hard. They had a great time. Everyone's really excited for winter sports, so the mood seems to be up like, since practices have been starting. We've had a lot more interest, I feel like, in things like ski team.
Yes.
I know some of my friends are on it. I don't personally do it, but a lot more people have been joining.
Do you know where they ski regularly? Where there's,
I believe they're usually, I know that they practice Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and every other Saturday.
Mhm.
I'm not totally sure which mountain that they use, but they do a lot of dry lands too.
Mhm.
So they use the facility downstairs
Great.
for a lot of that stuff. And then football, the Thanksgiving game, that was a really hardly fought event.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. Unfortunately, we lost. However, it was a good game. And then in regards to more about arts, there's a new comic club that
Oh, wow.
we started this year. I believe Miss Anthony runs it. It's pretty popular. A lot of people enjoy it. It's just a nice extra thing to have again. There's so many clubs. We had a club fair about a month ago, which really made it known what clubs exist.
That's
So,
nice.
yeah, because a lot of people have questions about what clubs do exist.
Well, and you know, Grace, that's good you're mentioning that because later in the meeting, I'll actually show you the clubs. And,
There's a
the
lot more than you
attendance.
would think.
There was actually more than I thought, even when I looked at the list.
Yeah, there's so many. There's something for everybody, so,
That's great.
which is good. The rent play just happened. I went, it was great. I thought it was awesome. It was so well run. I was shocked at the amount of talent. I didn't know my peers had, I guess, those abilities, I guess. 'Cause I was shocked. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, so-
Very realistic. And there's a holiday tour coming on Monday
Yep.
for the younger schools.
Mhm.
And that was a favorite part of my day when I was in Deer Hill and Osgood. So hopefully it will be for them too.
Maybe you can explain what the holiday tour is.
Yeah, so the bands and the chorus go to the younger schools and play for them and sing for them.
The high school band and chorus?
Yeah, the high school band and chorus. But everybody seems to enjoy it. They have fun.
Love it.
Mrs. Moriarty's great.
Mhm.
It's always an organized event because she's very organized.
Yes,
And she makes it fun for everyone, which is great.
it's so nice that's a lasting memory for you when you were elementary student.
Yeah, I remember it every year. It's
great.
one of my favorite things.
Now-
I look
now give 'em
forward
back,
to.
right.
Yeah, so it was cool. And then the last thing I wanted to add was about Powder Puff, which is something I was looking forward to since I was a freshman,
All right,
and I got to play this year.
Nice.
And
sorry.
I was kind of a little, worried that maybe it was only a select few that would get to play, but everybody rotated out, everybody got a chance to play. The football team was actually really nice about teaching us all the rules, because a lot of us were like, oh, we don't know what to do, and got nervous about it, but it was fun. The seniors won, but as expected. But that's pretty much it for the updates I have to offer.
Fantastic.
Great job.
Thank you.
very much.
I do want to just for the good of the order note that Mr. Carr did arrive and contributed to our forum about 6:07, I think, thereabouts. So during the presentation. So with that, I'll open it up to committee. Mr. Carr, any questions from Ms. Shaughnessy?
Thank you for doing this. This is great. We're glad to have you. This is one of the ways we learn what's going on around here, so you have an excellent report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was looking forward to next time I get to do it. And you have Ella next, and she's really good at this.
You're really good at it too.
Thank you. You will have a good report from her too. So, thank
Ms.
you.
Leskey? Oh, just very quick, see if there's any other committee members that want to.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
I just wanted to comment on your word choice. I love that you described fall sports as playing hard and having
I
fun.
love it.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's one of the most important things for people to do. And putting both of those ideas together, the perseverance, the grit, the working towards something, the dedication, but also keeping a lightness of spirit and a sense of joy about everything. So it really struck me that that's how you described fall sports, because I think it gives us a window into the environment in the school. So
A
thank
lot
you
of
for
people feel included, so, I mean, there's a spot for everybody, JV or varsity. So it's really just about having fun.
Mr. McClellan?
Grace, you mentioned the green team.
Mhm.
Do you think Mr. Kieran and I were talking about this. Do you think that in the lunchroom when they have, I don't actually know exactly where the composting sections are. I know where the recycling. is.
Grace, can you tell Mr. McCullough?
Yeah, so everything's set up in a way, it's almost like a line. So we have, I believe, 2 trash
Is it in that,
bins.
so it's in the front hallway where the trash is? Like the
Yeah,
same-
so it's in the front hallway, it's all there, and then there's a table. I don't know if you've
Right,
seen.
okay.
The small bin, it usually has a plastic bag around it, is where we put all the compost.
Okay.
So it's a smaller bin because there's not a lot of it, and then all of it goes behind the school, but everything's there, recycling, compost.
Okay.
We used to have we might still have it, I don't know if it's there, or it wasn't there today at least, a box for plastic bags,
Oh, yeah.
which was good too, but everything's usually right there.
Would you guys be interested? That's the area I was thinking of. I just didn't know if I haven't noticed the composting. I probably have seen it, just didn't realize it's where it was.
Sometimes it moves around.
Okay, would you guys have any interest in maybe thinking of just ideas, concepts for maybe making that look a little nicer, like of an area, like maybe there's like, you know, bins that sort of cover things that you can still deposit things into, so it's not, because it's kind of like open barrels and open things, and it kind of looks unsightly a little bit, you know? And I thought that Mr. Kieran and I were thinking like, it would be nice maybe to have like a, you know, like a quasi-permanent thing where like, you know, maybe, I don't know, like wooden frames that the things go in, they can be easily removed, but they can be,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? I don't know, maybe you guys, I don't know if you guys have any interest in thinking about like a solution for that, or if you guys feel like it's not necessary. I don't know, but it was like something we were talking about, just interested to get your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I could bring that up to them. Yeah, a lot of people do green team, so I'm sure that someone's willing to get the ball rolling on that too.
Yeah, if you guys think it's necessary, it was just an idea. I'd be interested to
Yeah.
hear a student approach. to
It is
that.
a nice idea too, because I think it could motivate people to do it more. Because I know, like you said, it can be a little unsightly and gross. Like, I don't want to go near that. I'll just throw it in the
Right.
trash. It's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. So I can.
And that might actually come up in our conversation with our Mr. Cardon, our new Director of Food Services. The Student Advisory Committee will be meeting with him on next Tuesday.
Perfect. Yeah, that's where it initially came up, but
Yeah.
I just thought I'd take advantage of the opportunity
That's
to
great.
ask a student about, you know, who was
Perfect,
involved in
yeah.
that sort of thing, see if
I
they
think we'll have
want to
some
get engaged with.
even deeper
That's it.
conversations.
So thank you so much, Grace. Great job. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Sean, thank you very much for the presentation. It's, as Mr. Carr said, this is our way of getting a real close look at what the student experience is. So really appreciated all your updates and your engagement and your willingness to come do this. And I think you did a great job with the presentation.
Thank you.
Is there anything that school committee could do for you or the school or the students, or any issues that you haven't thought of yet? You don't have to give now. It could be saved for the next time, but those are things that we're particularly interested in, where we can
Okay.
help you have a good, better educational experience here.
Well, as for right now, everything seems to be going smoothly. So whatever you're doing well. So,
I'll take all the credit. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Grace. Great job,
Thank you.
great job. Okay, have a great night.
you too.
Okay, take care.
Moving rapidly through our block C, we have another invited guest with Kathleen Sanges to discuss a potential middle school Quebec trip. Yes. Quebec.
And we have
Right.
Pencil Mills joining Ms. Sanchez.
Quebec week. Thank you. Thanks for, nice to see you again. Thank you so much. So I am Kathy Sanchez from middle school. I'm a French teacher. And I'm once again here to propose a middle school field trip to Quebec City. Our dates are May 9th, 10th, 11th. And we're just, always excited for this trip for our students because it gives them the opportunity to see another country, first of all, another culture, and to do, just to compare the US with the Canadian differences in the different culture as well as work on practicing their French that they've been learning for 3 years, since sixth grade. So this is like the capstone. This is like, a big thing they're looking forward to at the end of their middle school time. So also it's a good trip because it's short, it's three days. So of course, possible trips in the future would be long stays, if they were going to do different trips in other countries, but they were longer stays. So this is a nice trip for a middle school student. And Quebec City is very small, it's very charming, it's great for eighth graders. So it's not a big city, so it's great. So I did list the updated connection to Massachusetts curriculum frameworks, the conversation that they'll be having, the comparisons, as I mentioned, and lifelong learning standards. So it's also, they will be seeing a couple of things that they'll visit will be the Citadel, the fortified city. We'll do a walking tour of the fortified city. We'll also do Musée des Beaux-Arts, the Fine Arts Museum. That's a possible on our list this year. As also the First Nation reservation is a possibility on our list this year. I've done all of these things before, so there's so many activities that we don't do everything all the time. But as another, we do the Cabanas, which is the Sugar Shack every year. So connection to the culture, the maple syrup, the processing. So we do that with dancing and traditional music. We also have the connection with math using the currency exchange and metric system. So they're getting a lot in this just little 3-day trip. We also have, one of the features is a dance cruise, and we do it on the St. Lawrence River. And we have, we often, we meet other school groups. Some we've met in the past, I've met student groups from New York, Nova Scotia, Alberta, Canada. So there's that opportunity for them as well. And of course, it's a fun time with their peers. So, okay, so the academic expectations, tell me if I'm going on too long. So the academic expectations is students will do the research on the sites that they will visit. During the trip, they take, we keep a journal, the students keep a journal. So at night, they, reflect on what they did during the day. And after the trip, we talk about, what we liked, what we didn't like, and they write, they'll write an essay and present to the class. So students not participating will also have some expectations. Obviously, if they're not going to be with us, they will do the research on the Quebec, on the Quebec sites as well. And they will also do a research project on either an author, an artist from the Francophone world. So they'll have their expectations as well. So so the cost, I didn't mention that we have a small group this year, and we were communicating with Situate. So I have gone many, many years. I think this might be my 15th year. It's like I started counting. But so I have I went with Situate last year. So we do have a small group this year. And because we're considering the cost, so it's almost double the price if we go with our small group as opposed to if we go with the big group with Situate. So as I said, we had a wonderful trip last year with the Situate group. And we're thinking also of not only the cost, but the environmental impact with a big, huge motor coach for only, I have 15 students right now so far. I do have 18 grade 8 French students. So it's between 15 and 18 students. I only have 15 that have signed up so far. So we're still in the planning stage for this trip. So I do have chaperones. Mr. Mills has volunteered to chaperone. Gonna practice his French and eat a little bit of poutine. So, and also Mr. Grassman from the high school. He's a French teacher in the high school and he's volunteered. And actually, Mr. E is actually. So we have a few, alternates. Yeah. So I have a few teachers who said they would, go with me. So the cost, as I mentioned, the cost could be, if we go as a small group, the cost could be more than $1,000 this year. So I had a quote of 1,100. If we go with Situate, it would be between 600 and 700. So I don't know if I wrote, yeah, I wrote 700 to 900, but I got the cost is 1,000 if we go with the small group. So we go with Jump Street Tours, and I've gone with them several years. They're probably I think they're wonderful. I've had great experiences with them. And also the transportation hotel, as far as the motor coach, it would be like, we wouldn't know the motor coach that they contract. Jump Street does like everything, so we wouldn't know the motor coach until we get closer to the time we're leaving. Just wanna, so I'm just trying to think of motor coach. It's Eagle Coach. Eagle Coach, it's a local coach, and we've had good experiences. Very safe driver, and I actually asked for one person. Very safe, very reliable drivers. Yeah, we stay at the Hotel Plaza or the Hotel Concord. It depends. Concord is right downtown, so kids we can walk from different activities. But if we are on the bus, we're always together. If we're going from an activity, we're always together. We either walking together or always in a big group. And I didn't mention this in the presentation, but what you have in front of you, but we have, as far as safety, we have Jump Street tour guide that stays with us for the 3 days. And we also have they contract, Jump Street contracts, a guard that stays on the floor, security guard, that stays on the floor from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we have that, and we're all on the same floor in the hotel. And then as far as like another thing I thought also is the insurance. If you're for students who may have to cancel, they can buy their individual insurance, just like any other trip. Oh, they don't need passports. The only if you travel overland, ID, student school ID, and certified copy of birth certificates. Passports only for adults. So overland, if you're driving, students under 18 don't need passports. So it's not a worry that, they have to run out and get a passport. So, so I think that's the questions. Thank you.
Mr. Carr, any questions?
It sounds great. It's a lovely city and it's so close to us. A lot of people forget there's French right next door. So
Yeah.
this is I took the same tour. I went to a Catholic high school in the area and I went to Quebec City and I remember very fondly the only student getting in trouble on the trip. But,
Tell us more.
I like to think I've grown out of it. But no, it's wonderful and I think it's a great opportunity to.
With your French class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Great.
go that close and see something very,
Yeah,
very
it's
unique and
really
different.
fun. Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, very much in favor of this
Thank you.
trip.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Celeste, anything here?
Also very much in favor and thank you for, taking the time to do this, to plan it, for the students. I know my
Thank you.
7th grader is looking forward to it. She has a year to wait, but, she's ready.
Good.
Beautiful. Mr. McCullough?
Thank you for being willing to go above and beyond, teaching in the classroom. I benefited from trips like Mr. Carr did, and they left an indelible impression on me. And it's just an amazing opportunity for kids to travel to other places, especially with someone I went to Europe with history teachers, and that was really awesome because they have the knowledge, the requisite knowledge to share with you as you're going to these different places. And a French teacher going to a place with French culture is sort of along the same lines. They're really lucky to have you. So thank you for everything you do. My questions usually center around safety and supervision and passports. Mr. Mills knew that. And you already answered all of them. So it's a well thought out trip. This is obviously not your first rodeo. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'll just echo the comments of the committee. I think these are priceless opportunities for our kids, and we very much appreciate your willingness to do it. So with that, I think we do want to vote for approval for the middle school trip to Quebec City as presented here too.
So moved.
Do we have a motion? A motion to approve the trip. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carr. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? For unanimous support, please take the kids.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Merci
you.
beaucoup. Bon voyage. Merci. I know. So glad we can travel after.
Thank you.
So we have another invited guest and another trip. Mr. Erlinson, I think you're back.
Deja vu.
I think this is a reprise of the Puerto Rico proposal. And before we begin, I do want to thank you for your your flexibility and your tenacity in getting this done and working for our kids. I really appreciate the fact that you were willing to take feedback and make some adjustments, and we'll hear about those today. But just before we begin, I want to make sure that, for the record, we let you know that we do appreciate the work that you put in. So thank you.
And I want to thank this body as well, because you aired the same concerns we've always had as well. And I don't think without those concerns, I don't think we really would have looked as seriously at this trip. And then it's going to happen. And I was just looking at the numbers just a day or two ago, and we're up to 35, which means the cost, I didn't mention the cost, it was $1,560, I think the previous, but if we hit the 35 number, it drops to $1,350. So we, a much lower price point. The information you have in the itinerary there, heading down to Philly as well, which I've never taken students to Philly. I'm really looking forward to. I was actually there 2 years ago. They got a great setup there with Independence Hall, Constitution Museum, and the Liberty Bell. And then Gettysburg in the middle of June. Can't wait to see what that's like. I mean, the conditions very similar to what they experienced during the Civil War. It really does, especially if you get to climb go around top in that heat. They really get a feel for that. Then a couple days in DC. And then we're back. So pretty quick, June 20th to the June 23rd. So it's right now well past that 5-day kind of tentative window they have for snow days. Hopefully we don't have more than that. So it won't interfere with school at this point in time. But yeah, we're really psyched for it. And I was just talking to some of the parents. We had our robotics parent night just now. A lot of the 8th grade parents there, and they're all psyched for it as well. So we're looking forward to it. We have 4 chaperones right now, and possibly we'll see. John might want to, Mr. Mills might want to join us as well, because we are looking towards a possible 8th grade trip in the future. This is going to be kind of a test run of sorts. So we'll see. I have to talk and see what the chaperone numbers are. But 4 for 35 kids would be more than enough the way we begin right now. But we'll see if we can get a 5th, just because we get to have him there as well.
Well, I will say that the brochure does talk about a lot of stuff, so we'll take that as read. Mr. Carr, any questions for Mr. Erlandson?
No, I think this is a great trip. Do you know where you stay?
So usually it's like a Springfield Inn, something for the grand classroom, something. So the big problem we're going to have next is assigning roommates and all that. And that's always the hardest part of any trip. We're old hats at that now, so that should go fairly smoothly. This is a great group too. They really seem to like each other. Not the classes haven't, but they actually seem to really like each other. So I'm not anticipating too much problems there.
It's worth pointing out that this 8th grade is a very small group. So the 35 kids it's upwards of 50%. And this is once again, it's after school's let out. So yeah, it is a close group, and there's some excitement. The hotel tends to be Northern Virginia.
Northern Virginia.
Yeah, it's too expensive to stay in the district.
Yeah, there's going to be one hotel in the Philly area first, and then a second. So we'll switch once.
Usually very nice hotels.
Yep.
That's a great trip. Well thought out. Nice organization. Yeah.
Grand Class was a good group. Great. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Ms. Leskey?
Again, thank you for this revision and the time that it took, but also thank you for this, this is an amazing trip. I just sort of love it. It's almost like a history trail. Will you be taking then the motor coach into DC and into Philly every day, or starting to use, or?
So it's my anticipation that we'll be leaving very early here, heading down to Philly first, spending the day in Philly, and then the hotel to be determined. And then from there, probably doing Gettysburg on the way down, and then we have a night tour of the monuments, which is always nice. And then we do some of the rest of the Arlington. We'll also do a lot of time with the Smithsonian areas. We also will get into the African American Museum as well. And then something on the way back. I can't remember what's on the itinerary. I should remind. But yeah, it's going to be full. I mean, it's a 4-day kind of total trip. So it's nonstop.
To answer your question, it tends to be, the routine is you get up in the morning, eat breakfast in the hotel, onto the bus. Some traffic getting in. Well, if you've lived in the DC area, there's traffic everywhere. But then if you picture the mall, the only people that really can park along the mall are buses. There are coach buses lined up. So it tends to be a bus into the city, disembark, tour guide leads you on some part of the tour, back on the bus again. So not public transportation.
It's a good system.
It's so clean. Yeah, I used to live in DC and I, grew up on, on the T and taking the Green Line, lived down there, took the Metro and then came back and was horrified the first time I had to get on the Red Line. I'm like, people eating on this? Like, you don't eat on public transportation, but I forgot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leslie. Mr. McCollum.
Thank you. This is amazing. This is an awesome educational tour. This is great. This itinerary is amazing. Gettysburg, a lot of people don't ever get there, and it's incredible. I wonder, I went there, I mean, I was like a real Civil War nerd, so like kind of like a next level sort of thing, but like I do feel like it may be, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that you were just mentioning, Mr. Erlinson, the different areas of the park that you mentioned, one of the little round top. And I feel like it's even more impactful if they understand, and perhaps they will. I don't know. Maybe they in the beginning of the tour it's just going into it as you go into that park. If you understand like what occurred there over those 3 days, like like in Devil's Den, and like the people were actually fighting on those rocks, like climbing up those rocks. It's just incredible. It'll add a lot of I think it'll add a lot of perspective if they're, I don't know if like maybe like one of the history teachers can give them a little thing on it before they go, or like a little I don't know, some like I remember there being like a map of the actual battles like in one of the books I had, and it's just a suggestion because I think it helps bring the park to life a lot. Otherwise it's like it's a park, right? And it's a field with some cannons set up and it's really awesome. I mean but I don't know, just a thought. I'm so excited that you're going there. That's really cool. I think that's an experience that you're bringing to them that a lot of kids wouldn't otherwise get. And then the fact that you're going to the monuments at night is really cool. That's going to be so awesome. I mean, that's just really it's impressive. And the Holocaust Museum is just blow away. Have either of you ever been to that? It is. It's pretty.
It's tremendous.
It is. It's I don't even know what the word is for it. It's like if they still do it, they assign you a persona, like an actual
I give you a number.
individual that went through the Holocaust. You don't know beginning whether they survived or not. And you sort of learn about their story as you go. And I don't know. This is excellent work, and I'm just so appreciative that you're bringing this. And the price, this is what I love about this district, about our superintendents, about our faculty. You're so responsive to our community. It's a small, close-knit community, and there are a lot of demands, and you're super responsive to them, and this just shows that now all these kids are going to get the benefit of this. I'm sorry, is it an 8th grade trip? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so 8th grade
Not
trip,
the entire 8th grade,
but a large percentage.
Yeah, and just to respond to a couple of things, we did mention the Holocaust Museum. I think Grand Classroom and Mr. Erlinson did an amazing job putting together the itinerary because it connects really closely with the 8th grade curriculum. So, the kids study civics all year. In fact, this year they're going to be doing the civics MCAS field test. They're really going to know civics. So their experiences with government and history, especially constitutional history, this is really going to connect with and reinforce. In ELA, they read both in some of they read Holocaust literature. They also read in English 8 a book about slavery.
Okay.
So they're going to see all these curricular connections. So it's a really engaging trip, but it also is really educational. Stopping in Philadelphia, I think it's brilliant because it works on different levels, because certainly there's it gives you a chance to get out and move, you walk the history. It also, though, from having done these trips, that first 8 or 10 hour bus ride can like make or break kids and wear kids out for the rest of the trip. In this case, it's the architecture of the trip really is, it shortens the trip down. You get, 2/3 of the way down, you get out in Philly, walk around, you can experience something, and then Philly to DC is a very short bus ride. So it keeps kids, really takes care of them physically and emotionally for the whole trip instead of wearing them out. So
Is Independence Hall a national monument?
yes,
It is.
yes, that'll be part of where they are in Philadelphia.
So they have little passports that they send the national, you know what I'm talking about? So maybe you can get them, some of them will be interested in starting that too. I'm a big national park fan, so like it's fun. It's a fun thing to do, and they have the stamps. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's pretty cool. So thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. McGlynn. I think if you find yourself and need another chaperone, I think we know someone who would be.
Yeah, as we look to the future, we're gonna, how we staff that with a whole eighth grade, we're gonna be leaning on.
Absolutely.
as well. So we'll see how that progresses too.
So, again,
Collins here before you know it.
Yeah, then you know I'm in. Yeah, exactly.
Central office room.
So I echo the remarks of the community members, and once again, underscore my thanks for your flexibility and your responsiveness in this. This is a fantastic trip. I can't believe that you're able to do all this stuff. I mean, I went down to DC with my family. There's no way we could do all this. And that's just the
That's
four
the
of
good thing
us.
about the tour groups, yeah, 'cause otherwise, even getting in on some of those, you just have to apply like a week ahead of time just to get
Just
those. out.
describing, when you said you wake up in the hotel and then you have breakfast, that right there is just chaos for my family, just the four of us. Like to get, 35 kids out the door and into a bus on time to a tour guide park. Amazing. So thank you for coordinating this. I don't have any questions. I think this is great. One potential building on, Mr. McClellan's suggestion is that, I think it was in eighth grade, I read the book, The Killer Angels, which is all about, a really deep dive into the Battle of Gettysburg.
Very deep dive.
And it is it's written in a kind of historical fiction sort of way where it's all true, but it's written in real time. It's an excellent book that really gives you, and in fact, when I went to Gettysburg, I was able to kind of visualize things because of that book. So it's something to suggest to the kids that are going to come, that they may want to try and look for that in the library or somewhere. It's an older book, but the history hasn't changed much. With that, I will, so I think we also do a vote here, and so I'll see if we have a motion to approve the Cohasset Middle School Washington DC adventure as presented to the committee.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Cullen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Leskey. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Mr. Mills, thank you very much for doing this. Very much appreciated.
All right, and before I actually completely step down, inspired by Grace, I will tell you that tomorrow night is the CMS Winter Concert.
Yes.
So, so if anybody's around, it's chorus at 6 and band at 7:30. So everybody's
I will be
welcome.
there.
I know you will. Yeah, everyone's welcome. Thanks so much.
Gods in General is also a movie as well, guys. Gods in
That's right.
General is a movie about Gettysburg.
Jeff Daniels, I think?
Yeah, it's like a drama. Yeah. I think it's based on that.
I think there was a prequel. There's three things. Great stuff. Anyway. So we have Civil War nerds over here on the side of the thing. All right. Well, with that, we've closed out all of our invited guests, and we'll move on to our customary opening of school updates with our superintendent of schools, Dr. Patrick Sullivan.
Yes, I'll go quickly through these, but I did want to, a couple of them Grace got into, but I wanted to just mention some important events that happened. Grace did mention Rent, and it was very successful. I want to thank Mr. Carr for this particular picture.
Oh, we're not supposed to take pictures. I broke every rule every night.
See, now I have them, but this was a wonderful presentation. And I want to thank Ms. Arenstam, Ms. Moriarty, the whole arts department seemed to be involved in it, and the whole community for supporting our students. This was a wonderful, wonderful production. And as Grace said, a showcase of many of our talented kids. So just wonderful. Mention this.
Can I just mention before you go on, unknown to anybody, 27 members of the faculty and staff of the schools appeared and sang in the show over a 3-night period. It was really very well done, and they gave of their time, and it was pretty impressive.
That is impressive. Yep. Can't thank them enough for that. And we had a lovely National Honor Society presentation yet last night that Dr. Scollins and I attended. I know Ms. Leskey and a few others did as well. And it was fantastic, as always, where we inducted many students in, and you can see our panel of seniors who helped induct the students. And there you have, that's actually kind of a tough shot, Mr. Turner having a drink of water in the back, and Principal Scott, of course, leading the way. It was wonderful as they crossed the stage and received their awards. And they talked about the pillars of National Honor Society. So congratulations, students and families. This was a wonderful presentation and some excellent speeches by Mr. McCabe and Principal Scott. as well as Charlie Lankow did a fabulous job. And also both Kearney's did a super job as well, and Isabel. So we had an eighth grade sustainability showcase. You can see around the room here, school committee, some of the projects. Very authentic and research-based, happens in the research class. I love that they have to talk to an expert and solve a problem. This is really the type of learning that we're moving into in a deeper way in the next strategic plan. So very, very proud of them, and it was lovely being here to watch them. You can see just some of the topics. You know, you have sports injuries, water pollution, all very topical, stress and media. That again, I love that students were keying in on the importance of controlling the amount of media that we're presented every day. This was talking to a local fisherman about an action plan and some of the problems that are facing fishermen today. Saving bees, I like that. That was really cool. Food waste, talked a little bit about that today. It's a nice project. Circus Smirkus is a staple at Deer Hill. And we've had different circus companies. Circus Smirkus has been with us for at least 2 years now. They do a tremendous job working with fifth graders in PE class all week. I went in and observed some of the training sessions. You can see a gentleman there. They were working with feathers and moving feathers up in the air. I didn't participate. I kind of wanted to, but I didn't get an opportunity to. But this culminates in a student-run presentation on Friday evening, which I'm planning on attending. So that should be, it's always fun. And it's great to see how much they learned in 1 week time. Principal Mills had his Compass Awards today. Every single school is doing something as part of their goals to acknowledge students for not just academics, but for character, for really just growth mindset and all those important things that drive us as a society. And his word today, and this was our first group of students. There's wonderful, a couple of a current school committee member, child, and a former school committee member's child right there. So nice to see. But on the back of each certificate is a write-up by the nominating teacher. So all these students were nominated by a staff member, and they wrote the reason why. So I think that means a lot. And it was a really nice ceremony that Mr. Roberts and I attended today. It was wonderful. And you can see this is happening. We have the Oh So Good phone call home. We've already highlighted that. And you can see the Deer Hill Empowered Student Awards. I remember our vision is to empower students to improve communities. So it's nice that everybody's doing this. This is our Susan B. McNamara Innovation Center.
Is it done?
Not quite, but we're very close.
Oh, good.
When it's done, I'll highlight it more, but students are now using it and you can see the collaboration happening. It's wonderful. And I think I see Miss Owen over there collaborating in the corner. Yeah. Nope, this is a slide. Well, I don't know. Let me go back to that. There it is. All right. So we do have more work being done regarding our food service initiative. And this is a SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or things to make sure we avoid regarding food service. And this is happening at Deer Hill. So we're going to get a younger student perspective. We already have some older students' perspective, so that's nice. And then just a heads up. I mean, a shout out, I guess, to our custodians who do such a great job getting our schools ready. And we had, you know, the storm was interesting this morning. It was like, I woke up, I said, no. By the time I got to school, wow, it's kind of coming down hard. But they did a nice job getting the walkways clear as far as I saw. And they do a great job every time. So just want to thank them for that. And then finally, I had a really nice moment today where I was able to be the officiate at a wedding between Q and U. At the Osgood School. As you know, Q and U cannot be separated. And it was a really fun moment. And you have all the students are dressed up as you see some question marks, you see some queens, you see some quarterbacks, you see a lot of things that begin with QU. It was really fun. We had a whole wedding party and everything.
But this was more of a vow renewal, because I remember this happened last year as well.
Actually, I married a couple of Q&Us last year. I'm told they're still together, and
As
this was,
a Q and U, okay.
this was a new Q&U
Okay,
that I
They
married.
keep finding each other.
Yeah.
It'll be a difficult divorce for the English language.
It was great.
Well, that's it. So I just by way of a quick share of some of the great things happening in the district.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. We do have our next agenda item, which is activity participation rates. Mr. Kearney, I know, requested this
Yeah, he did.
agenda item. So with the, and I think we'll just vote on this if it's okay. I would like to table this agenda item until he shows up, if that's okay.
I wish I could rewind what Grace said and play it for Mr. Kearney.
Yeah, well, it is recorded, so you can.
We'll have it in the minutes.
But could I get if anybody, unless people object, can I get a motion to move activity participation rates
So
to
moved.
lower on the agenda? That motion been made by Mr. Cullen. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Carr. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we will table this agenda item until further down the agenda. Which then moves us to our block E, teaching and learning academic initiatives with Dr. Leslie Scollins. And I think we have, as promised, the MCAS action plan with Dr. Scollins and Mr. Rock Roberts. So,
I sure do. I want to invite Mr. Roberts up and again, thank him for his continued great work with this and a lot of other areas. Been a huge asset to our staff. And as promised, as you mentioned, we're here with a plan and I'll turn it over to Dr. Scollins, Mr. Roberts.
Great. So excited to talk to you about this. I have to give Rock a lot of credit. He did so much of this. I was unable to do some enough for a little bit. So he really did an amazing job pulling this all together. And so we're doing a little different last year than we did last year. We're doing the same work, but we thought our presentation would be just a smidge different. We did well. I know you've already seen this, but we were really happy with how things went this year with our MCAS. We feel like the plan that we put in place last year was thorough and allowed us to really drill down and be specific about what we wanted to achieve and how we wanted to have our students improve, and our growth was good, it was strong. So just a reminder of some of those key pieces. We were lucky enough to have 2 schools out of the 66 schools that were recognized by the state for having high achievement and strong growth. And then some of those other stats for our students that you can see. And our goal obviously is to get our kids not only to where they were pre-pandemic, but then also increase, right? No matter how well our students do, we always want them to do better. So that's a constant for us, and to make sure that we are doing what we need for our students. So just a little shot of that. So tonight what we have is just a quick review of what we implemented last year as intervention plan. We're going to highlight the focus areas. And then what we did do was take all of the focus areas, and they are in a slide right here. So this is a separate presentation, which is exactly what we did last year. It has many slides to it because it's broken down by content area, grade levels.
Can you click on it? Just-
I sure can. And as you can see, it has all the components that we had last year, which is the district data action plan and the school-based and the item analysis and all the things that we did. So this is all of those areas. And so just let it load for a second. So anybody can click on it. Again, it explains what those focus areas are. And so they are the MCAS anchor and grade specific standards, where item analysis indicated Cohasset students are not meeting our high academic standards. The anchor standards, which are kind of those are overarching with subject area and then grade specific. And then just like last year, we broke it down and went through all of them and looked at where were we as compared to the state and or not accomplishing what we wanted to. And we looked at what that anchor standard was. So for example, right here, we have grade K-5 ELA, and it's a writing anchor and grade specific standards. And you can see we've broken it down. So looking at, it says text types, and then below that explains exactly what it is that we will be looking at. And then this gives us a guide for all the work that we do. It gives teachers his principals, department chiefs. This is a document that we have for everyone so that they have an outline of where we are going and what work needs to be done. So that goes all the way through. I'm happy to take you all the way through it. Rock and I can do that, or you can have it available to you to look at. It's purely up to you. What we wanted to do was focus on two of the areas that we wanted to highlight, and one is writing across the district, and then also middle school math. So, but I wanted to offer you the opportunity to have us go through it, but it's purely up to you.
And this is very deep. It goes,
It
it's
does.
50-something slides. and
It
It goes in depth into all the
It has the
areas.
examples like we did last
Right.
year, so that you know what the kids are looking at. One of the things that we did talk about, well, when we did the overview is, we talked about kind of memory, thinking about what are some of the techniques students need to take the test, right? So we did a lot of work with that, kind of looking at, okay, how do the kids practice from going from place to place, looking at two screens, like looking at two different documents in a screen, things like that.
I think that
So
contributed to our scores, that approach. and we
just
do that
even, right, I mean, just
Just the
really,
taking of the test.
yeah, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I think that helped. I think that was smart. I don't know. I personally feel like it's not necessary to go through. I mean, we can access that. Anyone can access.
Right.
it.
We'll put it
Right,
on
well,
a
everything on the
newsletter,
website,
have
but-
it on the website.
So I don't know. I think I am more interested in hearing like the highlights. I mean, we had basically identified those two, the writing and the middle school math when we were looking at the results, and I'm sure that's why, you targeted. So I'm very interested in that. Those are obvious weak areas for opportunity.
We wanted to let you know,
Right.
we do have
Opportunity for growth.
specific approaches to every issue by grade. So it's there. It's just a matter of,
Yeah.
maybe not review it right now.
Yeah, no, as with everything, less is often more. I mean, in the fact this is available is great. When I think the committee and community really want to hear about is kind of what our findings are from this go around and where our focus is and areas for improvement are as we move forward, and making sure we're not kind of taking our foot off the gas. And again, there's a lot to pat on the back for this year's performance. There's always rooms for improvement.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's nice to give yourself a pat on the back, but then it's down, back down to business, right? So, which is what we want to do. So let me go back here.
Just X out of
So that sounds good, fine for you. And so just a quick, and I know you know that we did all this, but I just think it's important to know some of the things that you supported to help us get to where we are. And obviously MCAS is just one data point. We look at a lot of different pieces of data, and all of these things contributed to the growth of our students and their achievements. So we have our new director, Brock, who is right here to help us, which has been so valuable. And then the middle school math teacher to help with making sure that we had smaller class sizes. And I was walking with math specialists the other day, and just to see what's happening in those classrooms with the new program. And I'll just highlight that a little bit when we get to it. But that was extremely helpful, adding the math specialists, having the math and computer science teachers. So just allowing us to have those positions, we so appreciate it, because not all districts are able to do that and get that support. So thank you so much. And then our continued PD, that we have our partnership for our early literacy, and then the implementation of Open SciEd has just been really helpful. And then here's just a quick list of all of the other things from last year that were really supportive of us, really looking at data, making sure that we're analyzing it, getting it into teachers' hands, having discussions about it, and having that consistent process around looking at data, that we're continuing to grow that process, and using our the data we got to look at what are the kinds of questions, having teachers look at the questions. How do we want them to respond, and what do we want them to be as thinkers? That is one of the things about MCAS, is that it is making students think and share their learning in ways that are more authentic in the questions they're asking. It's really about problem solving, inquiry-based approach, because the reality is we actually don't know the questions that we're actually teaching them when they leave us in 12th grade. We don't know the jobs they're going to be doing. We don't know. So we have to make sure that they're problem solvers, that they understand how to break things apart and figure out how to get to a solution. So, and MCAS does do that, because that's how the standards are aligned, and that's the movement that's happening. We're in phase 2 of our math curriculum review process, and in particular, the implementation of illustrative math for grades 6 through 8. That we knew that was going to happen. And again, really thinking about all those critical thinking, problem solving, and writing with purpose, and having those opportunities for our students.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the strengths coming in. And I will say that the implementation of the 2023 MCAS action plan was really key. Me coming into this position, having data dialogues with staff that I'm just getting to know, this was put in place and it was really a systematic process. So going through the information, it was kind of there, and it made it a lot easier to get into the conversations, to really start looking at where our opportunities to grow. And just as our math curriculum is moving to this idea of productive struggle and growth mindset, when we're approaching data in our district, we're very much in that same mode. How do we grow? Also, just by having this systematic approach to data, what we're seeing is really, we're in the midst of creating a data-rich culture in Cohasset Public Schools. We're not only looking at the data when MCAS comes out, but we're looking at other data sources and how do they work together, and then we're tracking it. And it seems almost every month we're taking another step further. What else are we adding to Aspen? How are we going to track this? How are we going to track student participation in extracurricular activities? How much data do we want to get so we get a really full picture, so it's not just an MCAS snapshot, but it's a whole student picture and a whole district picture. So this has kind of really moved that forward, I believe, just in terms of the work I've been doing. That in relation also to the curriculum guide work that we've been doing, so that the data that we're looking at in terms of the assessments is also impacting what we're doing in terms of curriculum. So the curriculum changes that are in place, they're being informed by the data that we're seeing and the trends that we're seeing, the trends we've been seeing over time. And we have that with our comprehensive literacy approach at the elementary level, which now goes K through 5. So we have this, we're seeing vertical and horizontal alignment falling into place. And then also with our math program, Bridges moving into illustrative math, same sort of kind of theories and philosophies about mathematical instruction. And you can see it kind of moving each year. So each grade starts feeding the next grade. In terms of opportunity, so like Leslie said, we went through and broke down all the data and looked at pretty much every question, every level, every subject area, and really looking at, okay, so what are the big picture items? And writing is really the place when you're looking at our scores and MCAS, and you're looking at the percentage of possible points we can earn. Really, the biggest area where you can have growth is in writing, because while we're doing much better than the state, still that percentage of possible points can run anywhere from 30% to 77%. So there's a wide range, but there's a lot of points there. And not only that, writing is an essential skill. And so spending time in writing where we know it's got a benefit, whereas if you're kind of isolating certain questions on an exam where there might only be one question in that domain or on that standard, sometimes you're kind of, trying to find a needle in a haystack, really. Or maybe mixing metaphors, shooting fish in a barrel now. I don't know. Anyway, so that was a key. So, and because writing is coming in 3 different forms, there's a lot of place to go with that. And so as we're having these data conversations, we're moving into second and third conversations now with staff, is looking at how do we improve writing instruction? How do we look at common language? Is the language that we're using the same from one grade to the next? And is it also the same sort of language across content area outside of discipline-specific vocabulary? So those kinds of things. And what are the tools? Are we using a similar graphic organizer, or are we using completely separate graphic organizers? And how does that work also with our high-need students? Are they using something? So looking at all that to kind of pull things together and create more commonality there. At the same time, we are looking at, we have opportunities to look at some of those higher level thinking questions. And when we're really talking about, so where do you spend your time? You spend your time when you're looking at passages and things around, how do you synthesize information? How do you analyze? How do you evaluate? But that's the same thing we would want to do even outside the test in terms of pushing our students' thinking skills further. In math, some of the areas that were identified at the elementary level were numbers of operations, focusing on fractions and numbers and algebraic thinking were two areas that we wanted to look at a little bit further. And then at the middle school level, looking at ratios, proportional relationships, expressions and equations, statistics, probability, and geometry. So kind of where does all that fit? Where is it in the curriculum? We need to go back and kind of look at some of those things. Math at the high school, in our conversations, my conversations with math department was really thinking about some of the sequencing. So if there was a bit of a drop in terms, I mean, the scores were phenomenal, but when you were looking at, well, where are areas we could possibly move, geometry was one of those areas. So when was that being taught? Is there a way to kind of play with that sequencing? So those are the kind of conversations we're having at this point. And then really looking at interventions and supports for high needs students. So that's a real big focus of what we're doing at the middle school level, where we found that our high needs students, we need a little bit more focus there. So in terms of the actions taking place, grades 3 through 5, and really in general, what we're doing a lot of is looking at the MCAS rubrics, all right, and then looking at exemplars. So you get exemplars, so you can find out right now what a top writing score is that the state scored. We have access to that. And then the rubric, and then basically going through and looking at that essay and saying, okay, so what are the qualities that make this and fit the rubric here? And as teachers become more and more familiar with that, then that goes right into the instruction. So really taking the time to have conversations about what you're looking at when you're looking at writing and what makes this paper better than this paper, and how do you get a student from here to here? So those are the conversations that we're having. And this is the work that we're doing to try to get there. So using exemplars at Deer Hill, they're generating writing MCAS like rubrics in writing prompts, and they're doing them throughout the year. And then they are doing what they're calling class glows and grows. So teachers score the essays, and then they look at common strengths, and they write down some weaknesses that kids are having. Then they use that to inform the next round of essay, and also using it to pull small groups so that they work with individual students around identified needs in writing.
It's also a great way to encourage student expression and to really take pressure off students by just letting them share, walk around, see what they're doing. It really develops kids in a very, I think, authentic way.
You do, and once you, when teachers become really comfortable, students become part of this process too. They're looking at exemplars. They're also looking at other writing, and they're talking and having conversations about what was this was an area that this writing could be improved on. And so there's a lot of onus on the students too, about their abilities to write, their abilities to understand what their expectations are and what makes a good writer, because that's really what we want. But all of this is, we are talking about MCAS, but this is, us looking at our curriculum, looking at what we're doing on a daily basis to make sure the kids are walking away with what they actually need. This is a way of us, the MCAS, an indicator of us to be able to look at, okay, where is it that we need to focus a little bit on?
I love that peer-to-peer involvement too.
Yeah.
That's
Really
that's your sort of like PBL collaborative, like, they're all sort of
Yeah.
working on it and again, preparing at a very, very low level for that more professional environment, that secondary environment. I love that. And I find that now having a fifth grade student, they had, as you are well aware, they had a Veterans Day essay contest, and the kids were really engaged in that. I found in that sort of like there was a little bit of a competitive thing, but it was also like I think they enjoy showcasing their writing. So that's something that we can use, I think, in our favor, you know, where they enjoy doing that. Just thought I'd note that because you made me think of it when you're talking.
I think so. Well, we want them to feel like writers. We want them to feel like mathematicians and scientists. We don't want them to feel like it's being done to them, right? Whatever we're doing. So that's that approach that we're trying to move to, that inquiry-based, hands-on, authentic learning, so that it is engaging, right? Because we don't want kids to come to school and think that, like I said, it's being done to them. They have to absorb something. We want them to own it. We want them to understand what it's all about and have a deeper experience. So.
Yeah, and really embrace it and embrace their growth potential, so that they're looking at their writing and they're saying, it's not here yet, but I know how I can get it there. And that's when you really start seeing growth in writing. So that's kind
And
of
an individual or independent desire to get there, not just to obtain or achieve certain scores. But
Exactly.
like get better, that's like definitely like, I feel like my daughter, I'm already seeing that happen with her. So that is like, that's next level.
Right, and that's really what we want to, right? That's where we're trying to get to, so that they are what we call assessment capable students, right? They know where they're at, they know where they need to go. They may or may not know exactly what they need. That's why we have educators to help them get to where they.
And they can identify some of the obstacles in their way.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Could I have just like a quick, and maybe this is a curricular question, if it is, just shut me down. What is an essay? Because I'm not seeing, and I have a very small sample size at home, not seeing a whole lot of what I consider an essay. So an essay to me is multiple paragraphs, each with multiple sentences, taking an idea in the beginning, arguing that idea or explaining that idea with evidence, and writing a full paragraph, meaty conclusion. And I'm wondering sort of what, is that what MCAS expects when they're looking for an essay? And if so, how does that fit in with our curriculum? Because it doesn't seem like, at least in my very small sample of 2, that's a type of writing that they're practicing.
And so I would say it grows with the grade level. So in 3rd grade, actually MCAS has a limit in terms of what you can actually, the number of characters you
Yeah,
can
the
put in a
5-paragraph
box.
essay is gone. Remember that used to be for grade
Yes.
4, like that's been gone.
That's good.
So,
Yeah, and so now
yeah.
we're looking at like a page in 3rd grade is significant. In 4th grade, you get a little bit beyond a page, and then you only have 1 essay in 3rd and 4th grade, and then 5th grade, you get your first year where you have 2 essays, and then you start moving into the multi-paragraph essays as you move into 5th and 6th.
They're thinking of 2 things. They're also thinking of time. You guess that?
Yeah, because we saw Rob Curtin, is that what you're gonna talk about? Yeah, so Rob Curtin from DESE, we were at a conference, and he spoke, and they're looking at all of those components, actually thinking about taking out one of the essays, but they have 2 essays plus a, depending on the age, but, and then a, one that's a tester. So it's a lot of time, so they're really looking at
9
time.
hours.
Yeah, 9 hours for
The
all.
the average MCAS is 9 hours. So and that's in all subjects. And the equation is that elementary is required to have 900 hours of instruction. So he was kind of hanging on to that 9 hours is 1%, right? In terms of it, but it's a long test. So, and I know that's not exactly a question, because we should still be teaching kids at the proper level
Right.
to do the multiple paragraph answers. It's just that in terms of MCAS, they're not looking for that as much. They're trying to figure out a way to cut it down.
Yeah, I guess my question is just also about sort of the alignment of, you're doing this beautiful job of like really looking, but if there's an end product that MCAS is expecting and an end product, does that align with what you believe as educators the students need to do? And if so, is that an essay, and what does an essay look like? Because when you're talking a page to me, I think that's at least 2 paragraphs. I have a 7th grader. I have yet to see a piece of academic writing of this level where we're really sort of writing top to bottom in that length. And I'm just sort of wondering where that comes, because maybe it is younger. I mean, maybe it's older than that. Maybe that's a high school thing that I'm thinking about.
That would seem troubling to me, though.
Yeah.
At
That's
7th grade,
something
because
a lot,
they'll have
Let's do a little
English classes,
digging.
right?
Yeah,
See what they're doing on Google Classroom, see what they're
Right,
doing in the
yeah.
class.
Right.
The seventh graders will have like, they have English, right? They have an English club night, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, there's a class dedicated for that sort of thing. So
Right.
I
So those are
feel like we should start, you should, just
So
let's
those-
see.
Let me do a little of my own research, and it's not that it's a
And that's part
a deficit, but I'm just sort of wondering how this all aligns and what the expectations are.
But that's part of this whole piece around us having our rubrics, everybody having common understanding of what the expectations are. And then practicing all of those pieces. So I think you bring up a good point. That's why we're focusing, that's why we're focused on it. Because we want to make sure that kids are doing what's expected.
I want to just, I was going to raise this at the end, but since Ms. Lesky raised this question, the other thing I'll notice is, speaking as a parent who's of a sixth grader, and this may be just an evolution of education, but when I was growing up, the book report was a big part of education. And has the book report gone the way of the dodo? Because I've not seen a book report be assigned, but that was always a good, you'd read something, digest it, and you'd have an essay of, multiple paragraphs, multiple pages about what, what your takeaways are. And that's not something that seems to be, it seems the writing that I see my son doing at this point is, shorter, more targeted writing as opposed to the
Yeah,
paragraph stuff.
and that was more of, we really want kids to synthesize what they're reading, so it's a little bit different. A book report is kind of reporting out on what you've read and kind of giving the facts. We want you to be able to take that information and maybe compare it with another piece of literature, apply it. So we're looking for like those higher order thinking, so that's that higher level stuff. So probably wouldn't, but they are doing work similar where they are learning about books, they're learning about what's happening, they're learning about character development, all those pieces, but not necessarily, the book report isn't really something, you don't see dioramas and things like that. Some of those things have come up.
Yeah, oftentimes we get a book club where there'll be 4 or 5 different books that kids choose from, and then it's more of a collaborative kind of book discussions, and then often generated into some sort of thematic essay that connects what they were reading in class with kind of the book club book choice. They're usually done.
So it's all different, but that's a great question, because that's what we grew up on.
Right. But I guess I think, Bill, that my question kind of extends from the same concern that I intuit that Ms. Lesky's raising, and I think is really, I'm glad you're focused on writing, because I do think that that's just by my own experience. I think that, from my profession certainly, but just in general, I think writing is probably the most important skill, especially now in a world of email and, just the written word is everywhere. And so, that's a critical skill that people have to have. And it's something that I think that, I'd love to see more emphasis on. It seems like that's.
We agree completely.
Absolutely, I
You're
do.
right on.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. And I think, this is a process for us. So we're at those beginning stages of, all right, we know that we have to work on this. And so these are some of the things that we're putting in. But as we go through the process, there'll be more, of course, that we'll uncover. And that teachers will come up with and say, wow, or students too, like these are things that we want to work on. So
Remember, we worked on, when we got here, we worked on elementary numeracy and literacy. And now writing is absolutely starting to, you have to really chunk your focus points. It's not like we're forgetting writing, but now we're really focusing.
right, and it's really K through 12 too. We're focusing on, these grades that are MCAS grades, but that doesn't mean that K2 isn't doing writing and working on all of those things. So that is all there. But yes, it's absolutely something that we know our kids are quite capable of doing. We just want to find the right recipe in order to make sure that our kids are getting what they need. And that our teachers have the training and things that they need in order to be able to be teachers of writing.
So back to our regularly scheduled program.
So the next slide.
Thank you.
It's a robust, it's hard not to, I'll just forget the question.
No,
That's the
I'm
problem,
glad
I'm
you
sorry.
did. No.
It's just, there's so much information. Right.
So this is just the MCAS rubric, grades 3 through 5, and I'm kind of showing this one that becomes kind of an area, a lens for us to look through when we're looking at exemplars in student writing. Also showing the qualities looking for at the state level, but also you see it's divided on one half by idea development, on the other half by standard English conventions. And what you'll see in grades 3 through 5 is there's a lot more work to be done on the conventions because students are just learning a lot of these things. So when you'll see a lot more, there are more points in conventions in the elementary level than there are in the secondary level. And you'll see as kids move through the district that the percentage of possible points that they can earn in convention actually tends to grow every year. They move up and up and up as they get stronger in that. So that's in part why you see you'll notice a lot more focus on some of those conventions at the elementary level than you would at, say, the high school level. And then you're getting kind of a mix of that.
You know that the numbers on the side, so with 0, 1, you see on each left side of each one of those, total points of 4 for idea development and 3 for conventions, so they're going to total 7 points.
All right. Then 6 to 8, we're actually we've gotten together a few times to really dig into some writing, and we have another day coming up soon. And really what we're looking at, we're doing some of that, we're going to be doing some of that anchor grading where we're going to get together and look at essays and actually score essays using the rubric, having discussions about those, analyzing the rubric and the exemplars provided. How is that related to the essays we scored? And it's a practice that actually came out of College Board, scoring AP essays. And it was the idea that how you could build a level of objectivity in terms of scoring writing. So the idea that you have to be in the same 1 point differential between the other people scoring the same essays, then you kind of internalize that rubric, and then that gets taught to the students. So they understand what a 4 is, what a 3 is, what a 2 is.
It's powerful to see students grasp that and apply it. It's really a great way to teach good writing through model.
And so we're working on that, and we're working on that also in conjunction with the special education teachers to kind of look at some high needs work and how we can build in resources and supports there as well, and to make sure that we have some kind of common language that's going back and forth to make it easier to make those adjustments. And in service of that, Shannon Perello is coming in to work with special education teachers to talk about strategies and specialized instructions in the co-teaching model. So
From CSAC, she's from CSAC Consultants, we've used them for a long time.
Yeah.
CSAC consultants have worked with us for years now with our co-teaching model.
What's her background?
She's a special educator, but she's very versed at helping us move a co-teaching model, which is typically when you have a special educator and a general education teacher working together in the same classroom. And there are different actually ways of going about that co-teaching, but the product is, a good product is it's seamless to the point where if it's done well, you really can't tell who's the special education teacher, who's the general education.
And you don't know who, and you can't identify, like, the students all look, like students, like, not that they wouldn't, but that, yeah,
But she's very good, and they've helped us
yes. Don't know.
train a lot of our staff to work together.
It's great.
And then as we just open up kind of this sharing and bringing people together to collaborate on writing and looking at writing, we start kind of looking at, well, what are the tools that we're using, and are the tools that we're using aligned?
Yes.
And that's part of that conversation we're having. And this really too ties back into our curriculum mapping that we've been working on. So as we're kind of laying out our curriculum in map form, we're saying, okay, well, if you're doing this in 6th grade, doing this in 7th grade, why are we doing this in 8th grade, or whatever the case may be? But it allows us to look at how we're aligned vertically and horizontally.
Because sometimes, not that this happens here, but you can have a phenomenon where teachers seeing success from their students, but actually it's a skill that they've already been taught, and they're reinforcing a skill as opposed to teaching a new skill, which they should be doing. So we have a little of that as we kind of land on.
Okay, and this is, so you can see this is the 6 through 8 MCAS essay rubric. Is so you've increased to a 5-point scale for ideas, and you still are at 3 points. So now you've moved up to 8 points, and you're doing 2 essays, so the points are now doubled. So this is kind of that part of, there's a lot of points here, but it's the same sort of thing in terms of descriptors and things like that. So that's just to kind of give you an idea of how it shifts from from elementary to middle.
Not for nothing, but I read an email today that I would give a 0 on idea development.
Was it for me? Lex?
No, it was not for you. It was not for you.
How about me?
It certainly did not evidence the writer had read the text, addressed the question correctly, or responded at all.
Yeah.
This is actually really helpful.
Is this helpful for you to see it?
Yeah.
Then at the high school, made tremendous gains in writing last year.
They did.
I'm going to say I was in the ELA game for a long period of time, and I never saw districts getting 73-75% of possible points in writing. So, that was impressive. But there's still room to grow. But what they put in and implemented last year was a lot of what we're doing across the board this year. They had done some anchor grading. They had looked at rubrics. They had looked at how they could kind of work on student essays and scoring so that they could make improvements in writing. So we're going to continue that work. And we'll be meeting next week actually to go through some of that stuff.
And I know you probably don't remember this, but I met with them, the English department for the high school, the day before vacation for the holiday break. They were so unbelievable, and they dug in so hard, and they at that point were already making schedules so that when they got back from vacation, they were looking at when they had common planning time so that they could get together and look at how they were going to change it. They jumped in so deep and fast, and that you can see in the evidence of what happened with the writing. But they really looked at it from a whole different lens when we did the analysis. So,
Yeah.
And we're doing it again. We're going to do it the first day before, but it seems like it's good luck. So we're just going to keep that tradition alive.
Well, and another great thing, development at the high school level is now we're having conversations about writing across disciplines. So social studies has been doing a lot of work with writing, trying to create some alignment, and same with science. So we're seeing that how the writing is now coming together, not only within the subject area, but across disciplines.
And Mr. Mills at the middle school, that's been a focus for them also, looking at common language across content areas when it comes to writing. What are our expectations?
And so that's the 10th grade writing rubric. Looks very much like the middle school one. Same thing. Usually by high school, in a higher performing districts, your standard English conventions. Usually they're pretty solid. Not for everybody. I'm not in terms of the state average, but the state average convention score is higher than it is for idea development. And so this is just this is the rubrics that are linked to exemplars. So this will be something that teachers will be looking at, where every one of those scores is a hyperlink to DESE, and that score is the exemplar. So you can see it, you read it, it gives you an analysis of why it was scored that way. And so this is a tool that we'll be using to look at some of those essays as kind of a model for some of the work we'll be doing. And that's the model essay. So I think that was the 8th grade 5A, the 5A, 3A combo, which is your perfect score.
Great.
But it's all, the thing is, it's all there. it's really, if you're going to carve out time, it's worth the time to examine writing and why it's deemed a high scoring.
Yep.
So that's kind of.
You notice just from a first glance, the explicit use of textual information and quotations throughout the essay. It's just a simple thing that, you know, we could take for granted, but kids won't necessarily do that unless they see that it's something that will help them. Say, oh, I could have done that. Go ahead, you're gonna get a 5 if you do. You know,
Yes.
so this is the type of thing that is dawning on our students as they go through
Do you
this
know how
process.
short it is? Yes, and it's like in the real world.
It's meaty, it's good, you know, it's there, but to your point, like the 5 paragraph thing with, yeah. it's
Yeah, I
so-
mean, I feel like the 5-paragraph essay is like,
No,
it's a
but-
tangent, but.
No, I know, but like, just expectations that something would be longer. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be, and we're gonna look at it, but isn't that interesting, right? So that's a perfect score.
What
grade was
I would,
Yeah.
Grade 8.
I think the top part of that is the descriptor. That's
Doesn't mean
so,
we're gonna,
what the state is,
we're gonna do
That's
that.
what I.
Right, we're gonna.
Sorry,
push it.
Mr. Roberts.
no, that's
Sorry,
fine.
sorry.
Yeah, in the box is the descriptor of what makes this essay a 5A and a 3A, and then below is the essay, and I believe that's
It goes a
cut
little
off.
bit
I think
further.
it's actually,
Okay.
'cause
It goes a little further.
that's an 8th grade essay.
Okay,
So that,
it's
that-
going down a little
that's going
further,
down,
okay,
yeah.
all right, good. So good. I should have let you answer that.
it's fine.
All right, any questions about grading before we pop into math real quick? All right.
Yeah, we'll just
Uh,
hold any questions until the end so we can get through everything.
Okay. And so middle school math, so that's really the focus here. So this year we've implemented illustrative math, also known as IM. And it is approved program by the Department of Ed, which is really nice. We were fortunate enough to get a grant in order to help supplement some of that for us. And one of the things about the illustrative math pedagogy is that it aligns with the state frameworks. And it has, which asks for a more inquiry-based learning, right? That hands-on that we're already talking about. It also aligned with our elementary program, Bridges. So our students are having those experiences. And so the math instruction is different. It's not the same when it used to be that you were taught the algorithm and then you had 50 questions to practice. It's built in a different way. So the kids have a better understanding of the concepts of the math. Then once they have had the opportunity to understand different ways to problem solve, how to, what is the concept, then eventually they get to the algorithm because we want them to be most efficient. And so when we did our curriculum review last year, we realized that we have kids coming in with different math. Not that the skills are different, but the approach is different. So it's been a hands-on experience. So this year, we have professional development with Better Lessons. They are the consulting group that works with illustrative math. We had whole group instruction where I mentioned that to you, that teachers came in over the summer and had a couple of days of full day PD. And they've had some other half days here and there where we've done other training with Imagine Learning. But Better Lessons is the consulting group, and each teacher and our math specialists have one-on-one PD with their consultants. So a little different than what we're doing at the elementary level. This is virtual training, but they have unlimited access to them. And they probably meet every other week or so to go over what's happening, and learning about the pedagogy. So built in here is the scope and sequence. I just want to show you just a little bit. So this is grade 7, but what you can see is that it shows you a pacing guide. And this is all for teachers. And this, I'm using Kendall Hunt's site because it's free. I didn't want to have to log into ours because then people wouldn't have access. But you can see that this gives a nice overview of what's happening, how things are interconnected. And
And
that
you-
spirals.
And you found that pacing important in subjects such as geometry or hitting.
Correct. Making sure. And
So
one
this
of
will
the-
help it.
It does. And if you look at the very end, so often, if you can see toward where at the end here, we're unit 9, pulling it all together that's that opportunity to kind of wrap things up for people, you know, for all the students and end the year. But we really get through the material before the MCAS happen, which is the key. That's what we really want to be able to do. And I think sometimes that wasn't happening, just
Yeah.
because there's a lot for teachers to be teaching. So what I want to do is just show you the differences that, and I don't have to go through all of them, but I'm happy to. But I've got a grade 6, 7, and 8. Each one of those areas is where we identified. So I just picked that one particular area that was identified that we needed extra work on. So I chose that just so you could see what it looks like. But I thought you might like to see. It looks different than a typical manual because of the setup for it. It doesn't necessarily look like a typical manual. I'm just not gonna scroll for me. Oh, that's not gonna scroll.
It's on the side there. You said it.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Minimize it.
Well, I guess conceptually,
Struggling.
I mean, I don't know that we need to go through the, it's not
Yeah,
scrolling, go through the whole.
there we
thing.
go.
Oh, there we go.
So everything's right there. This is an online platform. With Imagine Learning, we have an additional one. But there's a lot of inquiry based on this, and that students aren't given the lesson. They're not told what it is right away. The teacher always knows where they're going. But if you can look here for preparation, there's a warm up that kind of gets you thinking. It may be something that was done from the class prior to kind of get them warmed up and ready to go. It tells them all the standards, obviously, which a lot of folks do that.
It's very explicit.
But
instruction.
very explicit so that there's a path for teachers to use. And we have really good teachers. We're really fortunate. I go in the classrooms and I'm always impressed. But having this kind of a different mindset for them to be really dumped, like putting it back in the children's hands more so that they have the opportunity to explore, because when a person has the opportunity to explore and learn on their own, and it doesn't mean that they're not getting support, but when they have time to dive in, test the waters, figure out how this is all working, they have a better sense of what's actually happening. They come up with their own solutions, and that makes them a better thinker and makes them a deeper thinker about what's going on. It's the same process we're using for Open SciEd for our middle school mathematics. And so the students are experiencing the same types of things
So-
together, the same kind of language.
Dr. Scollins,
Yep.
so this is this something we're doing because we learned something from the MCAS, or is this helping us?
It's both. I chose just one of the topics that we knew that we needed help on, but this is exactly what MCAS is looking for us to do. If that's your question.
Yep.
So it's not as it was. So the lesson, just so you can see a little bit, see if I can be smooth and moving this down. So if you can see, it's very much centered on the students being able to investigate what's happening, figuring out. So they're posed a question, they're given a data set, and a lot of times this isn't just done in isolation, it's done in collaboration. It's done either in pairs or if you go into our classrooms, there's lots of whiteboards now. In several of the classrooms, they've gotten grants because there's a lot to be said about students being up on a whiteboard, practicing, problem solving. They're more likely to take risks because they can quickly erase it and try it again versus paper and pencil. It's sometimes a little bit daunting for them. So this process of collaboration, the teacher walks around and pays attention to what's happening rather than kind of that practice piece.
So
that you
how does
see
this
before.
differ from what we were doing? Is this a change?
It is a change.
Yeah.
I think this is more student-centered. There's more collaboration. There's more opportunity for students to solve it themselves first. Often what happens is a teacher will deliver the instruction and tell them what's going on. Like, this is what you're going to learn today. And I want you to follow this system of, like, this is how you solve this problem. You take A times B times whatever it may be and takes them through the process. This allows them the opportunity to say, here's your problem. I want you to take this data set, and instead of me drawing out the graph for you, I'm going to ask you to take this information based on, here's your data set, and I want you to answer these questions. And remember, I want you to try this and see what happens. So they're flipping a coin here to see how many times for statistics, that's what they're looking at, how many times it's gonna pop up. Now, there may be pockets of it, but in general, it wasn't necessarily that way. A lot of times math is not taught in an inquiry-based manner in the past. It's becoming the process now.
Yeah, the idea is, Brock mentioned this about the productive struggle. They're supposed to be doing the struggle.
Right.
We're supposed to let them struggle, supposed to let them figure
Figure it
things
out.
out and go through that process. Too often in education, we jump in as educators and solve it for them. And it's not what you're supposed to.
Right, because we want them to be capable, we want them to be empowered, we want them to be able to figure out where they need to get to next, whatever that looks like. And when they have the opportunity to do it like this, they internalize the concepts much better. It's very challenging. Once a kid is taught an algorithm, it's very difficult to often teach a child what that algorithm actually meant. So now we teach them the process of what they're actually doing, then they get the algorithm afterwards for efficiency.
They've shown that when students follow a process that's told to them, they tend to forget that. So when they go, teacher says, everyone got it right today, then they quiz them the following day and they can't understand why no one did well on the quiz because they were just following the process that was laid out for them. Whereas if they have a conceptual understanding of what they're doing, they're more likely to recall and how to.
Because that's probably one of the biggest things we hear all the time is teachers teaching, in particular around math, I would say more than any other content area. And that they'll say, I never learned that. And you're gonna open that door and you're gonna ask Mrs. Smith. And we're like, well, yeah, we did. But again, it's because they haven't internalized it. They memorized it, they regurgitated it for the assessment, and then they forgot about it. They're like, I don't need it anymore.
And I think this builds on something you said earlier. I really like the way you described it. And we've talked about the student-centered learning and how we're moving towards that. And this seems to reinforce that. But you mentioned that you want this to be something that happens, that doesn't happen to them, but rather that they're doing. And I think this seems to gel on that. So is this, we're right now kind of focusing on MCAS, but is this, are these techniques and things that we're rolling out writ large?
Across the board. So, and all of the things that we've been implementing. So this new math program, in addition to our bridges at elementary level, Open SciEd for the science at the middle school, also will be probably trickling down as the state creates more of those at the elementary level. Investigative history that we've done for 5th grade and then 6th and 7th, same. It's all around that inquiry-based students understanding how to find the information they need, how to problem solve. All of those pieces are all together. So it is going all the way across. Again, because we want our students to be empowered. We want them to own their own learning. We want them to be able to struggle through and figure things out. We don't want them to give up so easy. And we don't want them to just be looking for the A.
And knowledge is not, it's different than it used to be, right? It's not as important to know something now as it is to know what to do with that piece of knowledge. It's not as important to be able to regurgitate something as it is to ask the correct question about that piece of knowledge. So this is all, it's all, you're seeing it now kind of lie out as we move into a different, brave new world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the questions too, these problems are multi-step problems. Now, multi-step problems have been around forever. That's not something that has, you have word problems, all that kind of stuff. But these go deeper, and these are actually getting kids to really think hard about what they're doing and using the knowledge that they learned and the concept they learned to solve. Now, their solution may be very different. And one of the most powerful things is when you go into a classroom, and we saw this happening at the middle school, where children have the same problems. They are working collaboratively, and then they share out how they solve their problems. So they're working together, which is nice, but then there's these really rich, deep conversations that happen with the students around how they problem solved their question, which would look very different from another person, but they all came up with they came up with the correct answer, right? Because there is a correct answer when it comes to mathematics, right? But they had different ways of doing it, and depending on how someone's, brain works, will definitely influence how they solve it. Now, we don't want kids using the most inefficient way, right? We don't want a seventh grader still drawing out lots and lots of, hashtags to count something out, right? It's okay for our kindergarten to do that though, right? And then we get them to a place where they're more efficient. So the teachers have been amazing. This is definitely a different approach. But I think they're seeing the benefit of it. It's just, it's just different. So it's a process.
So I'm cognizant of time. We're getting towards the later side
I
of the
know.
thing. Are there anything like a few more key points that you want to make sure that we?
No, so that's
make on
really
this?
what I won't go through. These are all live links, so you can go through and it'll, like Dr. Sullivan said, it'll be on the website, so you can kind of take a peek in and you kind of look around. There's some stuff you won't have access to because it's just part of the program, but you can go in and look at any of these things and see what's happening and the pace of
But
that.
it sounds like the theme from what we're hearing is that we looked at our scores, we found, I like the way you described it, where we can, I mean, it makes it sound too gamey, but where we could get more points.
Right.
And that gives us some insight into some opportunities, and it looks like you guys are actioning on that.
Right.
Through writing and through focusing on the kind of students that you're learning.
Exactly, and it is about MCAS, yes, but it's really about, are we teaching our students what they need to be taught? And are we teaching them in a way that makes them capable learners, assessment capable students who are not afraid of struggle and are resilient and can problem solve? Because they have to do that when they leave us.
And a couple of upcoming things we just learned about, or we have been learning about, but
Yeah.
in 2025, there will be a civics.
Right, we'll be doing,
Test.
so there's a pilot this year, and so we are doing that.
Eighth
We
grade.
let families know, eighth grade, it's interesting. I think we'll see what happens with it. There were some schools that were part of a smaller pilot last year, the field test this year, and it is anticipated that the 25 will have that.
And then science,
And then
5th and 8th grade.
fifth, yes, and we always have fifth grade, yes, and eighth grade science, and.
No, but remember they're doing a different type of.
Oh,
science
yes,
now.
yes, so
Yeah,
the
it's
science is
sort
gonna
of
be
a-
different too.
Much more problem-based,
Right.
sort of doing the science
Mhm.
as opposed to, just
Yes.
answering multiple choice questions.
Yeah.
And that'll fit right in with this whole
Right.
inquiry process. And I think those who have adopted something like Open SciEd will have a leg up on other places that haven't gone to that model. So that's happening fairly quickly too. That's in
It is
2026.
26, yeah, so they're doing some shifting, so, but it's a data point for us, right? It's a helpful tool for us to be able to look at where do we fall based on the state? It is the frameworks, so if we teach our students the way we should, we cover these frameworks and we teach them to be good problem solvers and higher order thinking people, they're gonna do just fine. And so it's just an indicator for us.
Well, thank you for that. I'll open it to the committee for any questions, Mr. Carr.
No questions. A lot to absorb. It's excellent work. though.
Ms. Leskey.
I love how your curriculum, Project Rock, and this connect so well and is really just, each time you present and talk about this, I'm renewed in my just understanding of how critical it is in terms of teachers being able to teach in a way that makes sense, students being able to learn in a way that makes sense, administrators being able to oversee in a way that makes sense and that they can really sort of follow the process. And then also as parents, for us to be able to see sort of what's going on, when, and what we can expect our students to encounter, and just how this is all sort of interconnected also with MCAS performance, with overall performance and developing strong students. Like I'm thrilled and impressed with the work and really excited. I think it's a great communication tool.
Thank you.
I'll keep it to that.
Just a thank you for all the work. That was a lot of work and it was labor intensive. And I know Dr. Scoggins gave you the primary credit at the beginning, so thank you so much. And I think Dr. Sullivan sort of, to me, boiled it down to like that evolution in education. Or more instruction, right? And then we see that evolution also in the sort of collaboration and emphasis on project-based learning and all those things that are we trying to get a building to evolve to as well? There's a lot of evolution in this, I don't know what you call it, in this, it's not an industry, but in education. And it's so, I love to see that our district is embracing that rather than fighting it. So it'd be interesting to see this develop, as you introduce these concepts and
Teachers have been
reinforce
really
them.
receptive. They're really, because the engagement's so high.
It's good. Well, thank you.
So just a couple things from me. One, I just want to acknowledge and kind of express my own relief that, one reaction to improving MCAS scores would be to teach to the test, is to figure out how to game the test, and, we've talked about this for 18 months, and that's never come up. It's how do we improve our education?
Yeah.
And it's consistently been one input, and we've seen the results there. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, you did not take the easy path or press the easy button to try and just, put a Band-Aid on it. It's really looking at using that as an input, responding to it. And as we just saw, reevaluating the way we're delivering our product to our students in a way that makes them more resilient and better learners. It doesn't happen to them. I love that. I'm gonna use that at work somehow. The second thing is I kind of going back to the beginning. I am very interested in the progress on writing, and I'm very appreciative of the work you're doing. But that may be something that, or that is something that I'd like to kind of follow up on, maybe in the spring, just to see how things are going and talk about different sorts of assignments that are given, and maybe even do a spotlight on learning. Not have kids write stuff at the school committee meeting, but have maybe some of the stuff presented that the kids have been writing. So that's just a thought.
This is a big focus in, for the rest of this year and certainly for the years to come in Cohasset, is to improve our writing approach across all disciplines, across the whole district.
So yeah, so that's something I, again, very much appreciate. You guys are ahead of it as you usually are, but that is something that I agree we should focus on. So with that, I'll close off our academic initiatives. Thank you very much,
I'll let
Mr. Roberts, for your
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you.
to stay, not required to. As I mentioned at the outset, Mr. Wonka could
Thank
not be here for this meeting, so we are going to demur on the special education update, and I think her excuse be necessary for the in-district programming, out-of-district programming. I know that's agenda item that I
Better
requested.
served with her here.
So I'll just include those as ones that will demur with her absence. We do have an agenda item here, a preliminary discussion of elementary digital citizenship curriculum. Mr. McGlenn, you want to intro this?
Sure, and I'm glad I pressed for it because now we had two robust agenda items that were taken away, so it's not as time pressed, and I was sensitive to that. But this is to me an important issue because it's a constituent and family concern that was raised in connection with specific instances, but I think it's an overarching issue that we should embrace. It's again one of those, Dr. Sullivan, evolving areas within education. I think that there is a there is a sentiment out there among some people thinking like, well, at what point does it cross over into, the family realm? And, is it the schools? Is it their purview to sort of educate in all facets of life? The problem is that, where we are trying to empower students to improve communities, a very, as Mr. Dial pointed out earlier, a very relevant issue is electronic communication and digital communication. And our kids are getting exposed to that at a much earlier age than any of us were, than any of our teachers were. And it can, as we all know, it's a lot of the digital communication it can be as public as a postcard, and it can be as permanent as a stone engraving, right? So once you put it out there, it can be out there for a long time. The other thing is that with these social emotional issues that, occur in school when we were younger, you go home and you're out of that arena, for lack of a better phrase. Now you can never really escape it, right? So I think it's incumbent upon us to work this into, I wish Mr. Roberts said, I should have asked him to stay for an extra minute, because I would really like to see us work I know we do some digital citizenship work which is teaching kids how to do this, how to be responsible about their digital presence, right? I want to see us start designing something more formal at the elementary level, whether it starts in 5th grade or 4th grade, I don't know, somewhere in the Deer Hill probably building is appropriate. I leave that to the professionals, but that is what I want to discuss. We need to get community input. I just want to put this on for the preliminary discussion because I want to get that ball rolling. I wanted to sort of announce what my personal perspective was, getting that community feedback. I wanted to sort of explain it to you and present it to you so that you can start thinking about that formally. I think it would be real crest of the wave stuff. I view it as a student safety issue. This stuff can cause self-harm. It can cause harm to others. It can cause reputation damage for a long time. So I think it is incumbent upon us to incorporate it into our curriculum formally. So that's just my thought. It's my intro. I know I'm trying to be cognizant of time here, but it's an important issue. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
I think the plan is for us to have this on a next meeting agenda item to discuss more fulsome about, what we can do there. But I guess I share the concern that what I'm seeing as a parent is, how would I put it? When I was in high school, my friends had beepers, and pagers. And then the age at which kids get cell phones has gone from college to high school to middle school. And now I'm aware of, 5th graders, 4th graders having access to these devices, which, they're great in the sense that they give you access to, and this gets to one of your points, Dr. Sullivan, knowing the facts, because we have omniscience in our hands, is not as important. It's knowing what to do with that. And I'm glad this district recognizes that. But there's also a downside of this stuff that I think it's incumbent on us, as Mr. Cullen noted, to ensure that we are underscoring the potential downsides to the people who are getting access to these devices earlier on than earlier.
I think there's two pieces to it. And I know I don't want to cut in, but I'll just to that point, there's an educational component. And then there's a lot of, I think, community conversations. We serve the community. And we can talk about what's best for our kids. And there are communities that are outlawing cell phones smartphones in school. And they're and Boston Public Schools, for instance, they have what's called YOLO bags. And you put your phone and again, there's ways, I'm sure, they game the system, but this is the rule. You put your phone in the YOLO bag, gets sealed up, put in a locker or put in a particular location, and you don't have access to that phone. And you're not doing things on that phone that you shouldn't be doing while you're studying. Now, that's a community discussion, and that's something we can decide on and talk about as a community. But I think there's that component as well. There's education for our kids, there's education for our families, and I put myself in that too. I gotta learn. And once we teach about one thing, it changes. So it's going to be constant because the apps change, everything is changing, right? But then there's that conversation about what do we want as a community and how do we want to approach this in our schools? So I'm very willing to and excited to hear that you want to talk about that because I think that's important.
So we'll leave the meat of it for next time. But definitely wanted to get that out there.
So I just ask our administrator, sorry, Ms. Hussey, go ahead, to just, if you can start to think conceptually about what that might look like in the elementary level.
Well, we have
it in place.
We actually have a slide right now that can show you if you'd like to see it.
Quickly. I have
what we're
one
doing.
slide, just a quick overview.
But we can,
I leave
we
that
need
to
to do
share
more.
with it once you get into it more. I just want, I don't know, we want to wait until we get to the next meeting.
Yeah, what I'd prefer, just because we listed this on the agenda as preliminary, and I do.
Which is fine, and I am already
That's
working with
That's
Cassie O'Brien and Lindsay Kay, who are our instructional technology teachers. They are already putting together a presentation for you around of what exists from K up through 12, and then how it's woven into
But
other.
that doesn't mean it's enough.
No, it doesn't mean that, but
And
at
when-
least you'll
and-
know what's happening.
And we're not trying to say it's enough, we want to show you what we're doing, so
Right.
you have a sense.
Sure, no, I think that's good, and that's something that we should present when, I just want to make sure that, and that's why Mr. Dial is being
Yeah.
sensitive about this. We want to make sure that we're introducing it here loosely, and then we're going to be able to have discussion about it where people can comment on it if they're
Love it.
listening to it. Because we need that community insight, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's where we're going to develop the optimal product, but that's what I ask you to think conceptually about areas for, opportunities for growth in whatever you have in that slide. We'll talk about that next time. I thank you, Mr. Chair, for accommodating me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your.
Oh, and I interrupted Ms.
No, I was just gonna say, I 100% agree. I think the health and the safety of the students is paramount, but there's also the academic honesty issue and sort of ethics around the use of technology. And I think that is
Yes,
getting
yes.
more and more complicated.
Yes.
So it's not just being a good citizen, but also being a thoughtful and
Yes.
ethical
Yes.
user
Those components
of technology.
And
That's
that's
what I'm
been-
talking about, yes.
Well, and that's been the rationale of having high school students able to use their cell phones, whereas the middle school, they're not supposed to be using them. And it is you can see the progression in that regard, because we do feel that we need to educate our students at some point, to use it appropriately. But everything is changing so
Oh.
rapidly, it's just a discussion we have to have.
Yeah.
We have to have.
Great.
it.
That's great.
I think from there, we'll move to budget resources and governance. And we have a school capital planning. There are some materials associated with this, agenda item F1. Ms. Owen, I'm going to turn it over to you, but before I do turn it over to you, I just want to make sure we ground the discussion for the committee, because what we have is a draft capital list. At this point, are you looking for feedback from the committee? Is just a report out to the committee? I just want to make sure we contextualize this presentation before we jump into the details.
This is more about informational, we're putting it out there. We did meet as a budget subcommittee and tried to prioritize and decide what on the list should be, says Cs to the far left. The Cs are the regular capital, and then the S's were what we thought would go into the stabilization.
Okay, so this is just a readout to the committee for input and discussion. We're not approving or
No.
okay, so
Absolutely.
with that context, I turn it over to our Director of Finance and Operations, Susan Owen.
Thank you. So in front of you is, like I said, it's the draft list. We did meet as a budget subcommittee and go over some of this and prioritize how we thought it should be. A lot of them are similarities from year to year. So you can see, the bus lease, the electric bus lease, the replacement of the Chromebooks lease. And then we have the technology, which is the replacement of projectors. Last year, we did the middle school. This year, we're looking to do the high school. We're going, in order of priority. Middle school asked to enhance the audio in the classroom, which is the Red Cat systems, which they demonstrated at the capital walkthrough, which was kind of nice to see. It's an audio type thing that the teacher wears.
They do, and
it gives a different sound.
well, it magnifies the person's voice, the teacher's voice, and it makes it clearer and more crisp, so students can hear better. If you have a student who has some sort of central auditory processing or even ADHD, some of those, if you have some of those abilities, then it just makes it easier, so.
Also, there's a request from the Deer Hill to finish retiling their classrooms in the hallways. So we started the process. We have not finished it. So the flooring, the tiling are kind of mismatched right now. Some of it needs to be waxed and some of it with the new flooring doesn't need to be waxed. So it's a continuation of the retiling. Also a continuation of replacing by grade student and staff desks and office file cabinets. Deer Hill's also asked for a grade level of Chromebooks.
And that will make sure that each grade has full sets for all students. Right now, they share the third grade level, fourth and fifth grade, each have kind of a one-to-one in the building. They don't use the building, but we'd like to be able to make sure that all students have access.
Middle and high school principals would like to update our indoor signage on classrooms and hallways because one, it's very, very difficult for I would say community members, that people are not familiar with the building, to differentiate the middle and high school when you're actually in the building. From the outside, you can kind of tell, but once you're inside, you really have no idea which school you're in.
And our kids go through that at the beginning too.
Right. Athletic department is still looking for one or two passenger vans to take the majority of the smaller teams to their competitions and their practices. So that got put back on the list. And then the bigger ticket items that we had on our kind of our priority list, and you can see we put S's next to them, which could be possibility, which is for a bigger discussion of what items should come out of the capital stabilization and what items should be our regular year-to-year capital type items. So the fire alarm system at the middle and high school is end of life. It's working, but it definitely needs to be upgraded and replaced. So that's on the bus parking lot also was on there. We're continuing to move in that direction. I know town meeting, they had hoped to buy a parcel property that didn't go through. So we don't have another alternative right now for the bus parking, other than one where we are, which we're renting space, or two, build our own at Deer Hill. So I know it's been published, it's gone to conservation for is it the water?
Stormwater.
Stormwater, thank you, stormwater, so it's gone
Yep.
forth with that, and then was sent back to get some more, in-depth details on it, because I think there was an abundant that questioned wetlands. So
Yeah,
it's in process.
It's a stormwater review. The town goes through these all the time. It has to do with mitigation around stuff you put back when you build something. So that's where the question is basically like normal process.
And then again, as long as I've been here, we've been looking at the roads and sidewalks at the middle and high school, as well as the roads and sidewalks between Deer Hill and Osgood. So those are also on the list. In the past, we were told to put it aside for DPW, but we also learned the DPW's budget is very small and can't cover all of these, that they're not budgeted for it. So here, we were considering, the new stabilization fund could certainly pick up the big ticket items like finishing all those roads, extending the sidewalk to Pond Street. And then we took a look at an athletic director, Rotunda has requested, the alumni fence. Since we have the new track and turf out there, we don't have a secure fence. We don't even have a deed in parts of it. And, the question right now is we did have a fence company come out. We're waiting on a quote for whether it be, if it was a 4-foot fence all the way around, or was it what happens if it's a 6-foot fence, or if it's a combination of the two, but we definitely need something that we can secure. Because right now, there's no gate on it at all. You can anyone can walk in it. You can even drive it. The opening is so wide. So that's on there, as well as the bleachers. The bleachers, there were two thoughts of, one was, replace the bleachers that we have or upgrade. And two, we don't have a really great place for our visiting teams. It's all the way across the other side of the field. They have to walk all the way around to get there or walk across.
Just add a couple of things in the subcommittee. We have some more research to do about the fencing. We think this is very important, but all of the infrastructure, roads, curbs, all that stuff that remains, we all felt very strongly that those are big priority items and very appropriate for the new funding source.
So we
Sorry to
did,
interrupt you.
no, that's fine, thank you. So we did move, like the fence and the bleachers below the roads and resurfacing, because those have been, we've all seen it, we've walked it several times each year to see, how badly damaged some of our sidewalks and curving are in our roads. There's holes, there's divots, there's all kinds, it's falling apart. So, to look at the overall, it's a $2.1 million request, which is a big request. Normally we get, last year, I think we got $460,000 or $70,000 out of our regular capital. So at some point, we'll have to sit and have a more in-depth conversation of what is going towards the capital stabilization fund. We do have a budget subcommittee meeting coming up on Monday, which we're including the liaison to select board and the facilities department. So we can kind of all sit
in the same place and prioritize what should be really going on what list, because I think everyone has different priorities or different ideas, so to put us all together and let's come up with a plan on, what are we gonna spend this money on?
I think that's largely what, we started off with, the goal here is to get the select board input, so, I know, Mr. Carr, you're on the subcommittee that is responsible for this. Anything, I'll turn it to you first.
Yeah, so a couple of things, these are some numbers that are, higher than we might think, but we feel like, like outside infrastructure, roads, curbs, all that stuff. The town has now a plan on how to do that twice a year around town. While we might pay for it, we might lump onto those contracts. It would be cost savings to us highly likely. But we need a master plan about how to continue to improve that kind of infrastructure. And I think everybody feels it is, this is an appropriate item for us to do. So do the select people. I think they're going through some master planning process. This meeting next week, I think, is very, very important because it just continues the process of having a robust discussion as we get into the budget stuff about how to handle all of this stuff.
Yep.
We also, I might just mention, in the first year of the stabilization fund, we also were very cognizant not to spend up to the total limit. We really think that it is, it's a real gift to the schools, and we want to be respectful of that. So this is, this really is a very solid, well thought out first cut of the things that we felt at the subcommittee that were important, and would love everybody's input on it, but we're just trying to stay ahead of the process with the town to make sure that we're heard.
Yeah, no, great. I definitely think that
Excellent.
we should be staying ahead. Ms. Lesk, any thoughts or input? Ms. McCollum? No. While we were going to rip through the agenda, I do have quite a few questions, just as a capital, having gone through the process of the stabilization fund and looking at some of these. So I'm just gonna go through these in order. The electric bus lease I see is on here. My understanding, though, that was funded elsewhere, that we were not, that the theme behind that was that this would be covered outside our capital request, or is this? Because I remember one of the things was, oh, it's a free bus, we should definitely take it. So has that changed?
Well, it was not a free bus. It was equal to what it would cost us to get an additional bus
Right.
in the,
Equal to the cost.
in our other lease. So it was cost neutral. So that's my understanding, right?
Yes, but there still is cost each year for it.
Okay, because I remember, my recollection, I'll go back and look at notes. My recollection, we didn't necessarily want an extra bus, but then it was like, okay, we could use it if it was not a cost thing. So that's fine. It is what it is, and that may just be my.
Is that accurate, Sue? I defer to you.
Yes, yeah, no, that's accurate. And I think if I can recall, I want to say it might have been a special town meeting in the fall that they voted
Yeah, there was.
the 25,000 for the electric bus, aside from our regular capital. But it was definitely considered a capital item.
Right, it's just a question of whether it was a school's capital request or not, and maybe that, we can take that offline, that was one thing. On the Chromebooks, as a parent of a middle school student who has just recently broken his laptop, I know that he brings a laptop to school, I think many other people do, I guess, what do we?
Bring your own device.
Yeah, it's bring your own device, so what's, in a world where everyone's bringing their own device, is this the right number of Chromebooks? I guess and do we need an additional?
So we bring your own device from 6 to 12.
Well, right, at the
At the
elementary,
elementary, we don't. We
Okay,
just
so
have
these are all, the Chromebooks is all elementary.
elementary.
it's just
Got
elementary,
it.
right? This is
Thank
so we can just make sure all kids, so that they don't have to share them.
We do have a loaner program for
Middle and high
mainly,
school.
yeah, mainly based for students who can't afford one or
It's financially.
financial
Hardship.
hardship.
So, okay, then, I guess the next, I do just conceptually, you've got Cs and Ss here. From my discussions around the stabilization fund, I kind of agree with the delineation here on the Cs and the Ss. The one thing that is not on here, or the two things that are on here that I would like to think about as far as longer term planning are two of the big reasons we told the town about the stabilization fund is that we know we've got massive capital expenses for roofs and windows coming up. And Mr. Carr, I know you actually said we're not spending it all, which I think is, I agree with that approach. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that these are significant capital expenses that may occur. And some of these other potential expenditures like the alumni bleachers and maybe even the paving seem like a lot of money for those. So I guess that's something that, as far as input is thinking about how including the roofs and windows as part of our overall stabilization funding plan, I think is important.
So, go right ahead if you
No,
want.
you go
So we talked about this a lot. So the category of roofs, if you recall, some years ago, there was a discussion about maybe solar panels on the roof and things like that. The roofs weren't old enough, so it was a bigger cost in order to do it. Our roofs are old enough now. And so one of the things we talked about was maybe engaging alternative energy to see if they can help us with the grant. So what basically we could lower our energy costs, get a new roof incorporated with the present, with putting, we're looking at options, but absolutely important that we have to replace the roof.
Yeah.
And the windows were appropriate. We end up, but the age of our roof here especially is now at the age where that we could highly likely enter into a contract with the developer where we could get a new roof incorporated in the cost of the development in the rates that are paid by people, and we can offset our rate because we would be the first off taker of the energy. So it could be an energy cost savings to us. We can have an opportunity to get a new roof. These programs do exist today. The preliminary research shows it is, the age is appropriate. And so this is something we'd love to get on the agenda in the future, but I think this is something that can happen quicker rather than you would think.
Yeah.
And get these things scheduled, so.
I think that's great. I guess I just wanted to lodge and if we can go pursue these grants, it's all the better.
Right.
But I don't want to crowd out. I guess the roof is mission critical for us delivering our academics. Some of these others, the fire alarm, I absolutely 100% support. I think that's a no-brainer. The bus parking lot, again, if we're thinking about a world of limited means, as much as I want to be able to self-sufficient there, I think that we still need to do some cost analysis there. And then I guess I'm primarily lodging my point that the roofs and windows, I think I just don't want to crowd out those other requests.
Absolutely. And that's part of the discussion for Monday at the budget subcommittee, because we did talk about that as well. And we also talked about, do we do the accelerated repair program? Do we apply for that? Because our roofs now, I think Osgood is the oldest right now. It's at the age that we could apply.
Just getting to. The hesitation I have is waiting and holding money to apply it to a next year potential override. And first of all, I don't think that's in mission with what the town wants us to do with this money. I think we have a lot of needs, and I think we got the override. I think we should spend it on these needs.
Well, this just sorry to jump in. The idea behind the stabilization was that we wouldn't have an override, that we'd be able to use this to finance these projects as they come up.
Well, I guess I wouldn't, I'm sorry, I guess my terminology was incorrect. But my understanding is that we'd have to ask for this stabilization fund again next year.
It will be just like this process every year. We ask for, we don't have to get the stabilization fund reapproved, but we ask for the money from the stabilization fund, just like we ask money from the capital budget.
Oh.
That was one of the questions that.
That was not my understanding. My understanding was that the town would have to vote again.
The same thing that happens in normal town meeting, just with the regular capital spend.
And the amount is also going to be a matter of.
The select board
can reduce it.
The select board can reduce it, but they have to act. If they don't act, then it stays the same.
So my point still, even though I apologize, I was wrong on the particulars. I feel like needs here. I feel like we've made a claim to fill these needs, and I think we should do that. I don't feel like this is a situation where we put money away for a rainy day to get a more robust approach at a roof when that is very conjectural. and also has a lot to do with MSBA. But we did have a lot, as Ted said, a lot of.
We had a long discussion.
That's
and
my view, that's just my view personally.
Right, and that's one of the things that came up why I wanted to have a collaborative meeting, the
Yeah.
budget subcommittee.
No, and again, this is just by way of
Thoughts
input.
are,
I'm not-
there was one thought that we don't spend it at all this year. And then next year we'll have 3 million.
Yep.
And that would possibly fund our.
But maybe not.
That's
Right.
right.
That's,
We
that's,
might not have
that's,
it.
that's.
And all
I
those
don't-
needs just go.
I'd
worse.
actually, I'd like Mr. Carter to elaborate. I'm curious why you think that that's the right approach. When you said it would maybe foster some goodwill or something, I think the opposite. I may be missing something because you're more knowledgeable than I am
So-
in these areas.
When I say not spend up to the entire limit, we came pretty close. It wasn't right up to the dollar amount, but I thought fund as much as we can I'll just speak freely, is fund as much as we can. But I thought it was a good optic for the schools that we have to do some also master planning around some of these items, so we know what we're looking at over the next couple of years. But what are the greatest needs now? Because this is available now.
So-
And so these are the ones, but I would agree with you. I think the roots in the, look, we're moving towards a better solution other than fixing stuff. But it'll take time, and so getting these on a plan on how to do them over multiple years, I think is important.
Here's another question. Did we involve school facilities committee input when, I know this is a working draft.
Yes.
But they very much need to be involved in like our decision about, but this isn't just, there's another group that was integral in getting this fund approved and worked really hard on it. And so I just want to make sure, like, this is, and I don't even, I know this is preliminary, but I just want to throw that out there.
Oh, we need to get there.
We know, we absolutely want to work with them.
Yeah. I'm just giving you
They're
my
coming to the meeting
feeling.
on Monday as well.
They are.
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We're gonna have, facilities will be
Okay.
there and the liaison to the select board, check these out.
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts, just a preliminary. That's why I didn't get into it. And then you started getting into it. So now I want to talk about more, but
Well, I do want to, from sitting in my seat on the long-term planning committee, where we talked about a lot of the stuff that came to town, I don't think we should be looking at this stabilization fund funded at $1.5 million as temporary. The stated in all of the public discourse and in the internal discussions, the stated reason for the select board to be able to reduce it is not so that they can take money away from the schools. The stated reason is to, if we solve the problems that we have, if we got, for example, a new building, then we no longer need $1.5 million of stabilization fund. We have a building that doesn't need the level of maintenance. So this is not something that we should assume will be, the assumption in the request at the select board and as presented was that this would be maintained at a steady state unless it is no longer needed, at which point it can be reduced.
Okay.
It can also be increased by 2%.
And it's
So-
a select board decision.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
and it
So-
doesn't have to be dependent on the fact that we've solved all the problems. They could still do it. You're just saying that
You're right,
their support for it was in line with that concept,
you're right.
but,
Which is the
and
political
I just
process.
have no,
But that-
right,
They
and
could,
I just have
they
no.
could decide not to fund any of this.
Yeah.
They could, well, that, we have to take that to town meeting. The actual appropriation has to go to town meeting.
Of both capital.
We
and-
got the fund, but the ask, that's before we spend the money, the town has to give us the permission to spend that money on these items.
That's true for capital as well. It's the same process as capital.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm talking about stabilization fund.
Yeah,
Purpose-
both of them the
purpose-
same. There'll be line items right.
I know, I'm just noting that this is
Yeah.
a new thing, and
Yeah.
we have to take it to town meeting.
Yes. But in any event, so I guess my big input is, let's just make sure we're considering those. We know we're going to have these massive capital needs. And another reason, not to micromanage the process, but another reason why we might want to spend more slowly is by building up funds in an account that we're able to use. You can also use that to leverage those funds.
Yes.
So we can issue bonds off these
I get
funds
that.
and
I get that.
we can
I do
magnify them. So in any event, that's, I know this is a draft, but I wanted to offer that. And then on the fence, unless that's a security issue, like, like an actual security issue, that's a lot of money to spend on a fence.
Yeah, it's at the bottom there. I mean, it's an eyesore for sure. And it's something that we're looking at in terms of security. We need to do a little more research on that because there's some evidence that tracks have some lower fencing.
Side fencing.
Side fencing, you really have to look at that, but it's certainly something that needs to be upgraded and, we put it on our list.
I mean, it does need to be secure. Because we can't.
Well, it needs to be secure, but the idea of, it needs to be fixed. It's the
Right.
idea of like, how much brand new do we need?
Sorry, I guess that's, and I'll stop now.
Yeah.
But,
It's very good points.
so,
Does the fencing include some landscaping issues that are also around that fence?
No,
I'd say
no.
about 3/4 of that fence has a jungle.
Well, it would be gone, the new fence would be down.
Right, but does this dollar amount include fencing plus whatever, no,
No.
issues need to be taken care of? Okay.
No, this is, I mean, we need a fence. The fence it's not an effective fence to do whatever it needs to do. I mean, it does have to lock. It does have to be able to stay. My question is, it have to be 6 feet or
All
not?
right, that's why when the fence company came out, they're giving us a quote for the 4-foot fence, 6-foot fence, or a combination of.
And then it has to me, it's an upgrade. Right? It's something we need to upgrade.
so,
Really,
more to come on this.
We'll
Thank
continue
you,
that.
But, I guess from my seat, I see other needs that we've talked about and identified, like the controllers for our heating and HVAC system, not HVAC system, whatever they are. There's a bunch of stuff that facilities, I just want to make sure we're planning for all that stuff.
well, yeah, well, I mean, right, the facilities has decided some.
Yes.
Yeah. So
They created the original list.
Yes.
So, so more to come on that. Thank you for that. And then do we have we'll move on to the next point on our budget resource, any food services updates or transportation updates?
No, I'll present that all on the 20th.
Okay. That'll bring us to community relations. Any reports from our school committee, subcommittees and liaisons? I'll take the discussion of the capital budget as the report from the finance subcommittee. Any other liaison or subcommittee reports?
Just one item in the area of community relations. Some time ago, we approved a spring service trip with an outside nonprofit, World Service. And we recently learned that they are recommending changing the location of that service trip due to the political nature of what's happening in Guatemala with the election of the president. This just came out today. And
Who did it come up from?
from the board of directors at the World,
Oh, because you've signed up for the trip.
we have, yeah, and they're recommending going to Panama, which is a very stable place, and they have been working in that community in Panama since 2018, but it's probably worthwhile to maybe have them back in
I think so.
soon.
Yep.
Yeah,
Changes.
I thought it was very thoughtful that their board acted
Well, that's good.
appropriately.
That's
It
how,
just
because I didn't
literally
even.
it came out like a few hours ago.
Oh,
I'm not even sure they've informed everybody
All
or
right, so
something.
yeah, let's do that on future agenda items.
You got it.
There's a great deal of interest. Many families have signed up.
Yeah, and it was something I know the community was really looking forward to.
Yeah, it was a cool
The
trip.
trip is to go, just different location.
Okay.
We did have a food service.
Yeah.
subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
So there's a few updates there. First, we had a really fun, it was like the best part of my day that day. We had a superintendent's student advisory council, food service subcommittee type meeting where all the students sort of brainstormed what possible improvements could be made to the food service. We had students from all different grades there. And I will say that unanimously, the number one, Pat had done sort of a SWOT analysis. I don't know if it was actually SWOT or maybe a
It
new
is.
evolved version of SWOT.
Well, I
That's
changed the
what it was.
press a little bit.
And the strengths were first, and every kid said the friendliness of the staff was the number one
Right
strength.
away.
They all said that, all around, and it was pretty cool. I think that is an absolute testament to our food service staff, and I just wanted to mention that publicly because it was pretty cool. And they should be very proud of themselves. Pat had, it was kind of interesting seeing Pat in a teacher type role, leading the student discussion, and he reduced their thoughts to a written page that was then submitted to Mr. Cordone, our new food services director. And so he's taken that into consideration. And then we had a meeting with Vinicio Cordone, who is again new food services director. And we talked to him without students present what our expectations were, and impressed upon him that we need vast improvement in elementary, and discussed obviously middle high school opportunities as well. So that is and it's clear that he's very ambitious and passionate about this. I think he's going to deliver an impressive new product to the district. It will take a couple months, obviously, for him to get off the runway, but he's already taking strides, and much more receptive, I think, to being met with additional resources and what he may be able to do with those for us. So stay tuned. It's the next small step in food service improvement here in Cohasset, in our fight to create the best food services division in all of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
And add to that, we also talked about ways to gather more information about what the families want, what the students want, and then also our staff too. We're going to be meeting with our staff. So it's a lot of opportunities. We had some kind of bigger ideas before the end of the year, how we might be able to do some meet and greet, maybe some tastings with families.
Yes.
To kind of increase the, I'm gonna say it, the appetite of the families to improve our, I couldn't get it out of my head, to improve our food service. So it was, I think there's a lot that came out of it that we have to unpack, but we're planning on doing that in the next,
And I think he's meeting Monday or Tuesday with DL's student advisory.
well, Tuesday's meeting with my advisory at the end of the day.
Okay, so it's either Monday or Tuesday he's going to DL.
Yep, get over to the elementary schools.
Love it.
Go.
He's meeting, I'm pretty sure it's DL. Alex has scheduled something.
Hope it's Monday, because he's meeting with me Tuesday. I don't want the conflict.
Let's do it.
Love it. It must be Monday.
Get over there.
I've already invited him, would have been a conflict.
Right, yeah.
Great. Any other reports? All right, moving on to school committee governance, the most exciting part of the agenda. There are no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair. We do have some minutes to approve.
So these were the ones that were on our agenda from October.
Yep.
We held on those.
So we've got the minutes from October 4 and October 18. And, oh yeah, this is just we've got an extra page in the.
There was an edit there was an edit on the first page, and the correct one, give me 1 second, I'll tell you, is. The correct one would be the one that is the single page by itself.
Okay. So any comments or questions to the minutes? Any concerns? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented to the committee, with the correct version being the separate loose leaf page attached to the packet.
So moved with great appreciation, Mr. Secretary.
Move with great appreciation. Do I have a second that includes appreciation?
Second with.
Second with appreciation.
Should all be appreciated, Kathy Blocker.
Yes, yep, she's here listening.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the minutes are hereby approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Carr, Ms. Bach, for your
Ms.
compiling these. Now is the moment of the agenda where we talk about future
Okay,
agenda.
just one more, October 18th.
I thought I said October 18th.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Did we approve both? Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Yep. never mind.
So,
Good to go.
unless Ms. Bach wants to reflect it in the minutes, but I think we did have, I did say October
You did,
4 and 18th.
you did.
So this is a point in the agenda where we talk about any potential future agenda items. We did talk about the update on writing as one from earlier. I will say that we'll just take our tabled agenda items for future agenda items, the activity participation rates and the special ed education updates, as well as the in-district programming. So those are definitely ones that we'll want to have on there.
Yep. Absolutely.
Any other, and then also the digital citizenship will be on our next meeting. So
The 20th, I think we have that for January.
we have that for January.
We did only because of the presenters.
Right. I'm having teachers.
We have.
It's fine, especially if it gives you more of a chance to have like a little bit more
It
robust
does. We're just being conscious of.
proposal in terms of, you know, areas for.
They really should be here when we do that.
Okay, that's fine. We are a world of human beings and we need human beings to do things.
But it's not too late, right? The one right after the gun.
Okay, so any other future agenda items for the committee?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any other future agenda item? Oh, sorry, Mr. McLean, go ahead.
No, I can go last.
No, you jumped in. You have the floor.
I had the same idea you had, when we were talking about the writing. I think that we should do a spotlight on learning that is not just, centered on one of the grade levels. I'd like to see some sort of survey of writing, programming, or projects district-wide. So somehow do that. I know it's a lot to cram into one spotlight. Maybe we do it by building and do it, do how many buildings we have? 4 of them. But Ms. Selesky really got me thinking on that, and I am interested to see where we're at each level in terms of what types of writing projects the kids are being asked to engage in.
Sure.
So I don't know how we do that. I think we have to discuss that a little bit, but I thought of that, you said it out loud, and we need to do that. Because I completely echo your sentiment that it's a fundamental skill.
Yeah, and it's consistent with where
It is.
the district is going. So I think
Well, it's where we're at, where we're going.
yeah.
Right, so
So-
it just makes sense.
And that is kind of what Spotlights on Learning are for, is to show the community how we're doing things. So we can talk about the logistics of that, but a writing focused Spotlight on Learning, I think is a great idea.
It'll help us identify areas for, opportunities for improvement as well. Like, I want to celebrate student achievement, but I also want to evaluate, is this as good as we can be doing right now? Or are there?
Well, we know it isn't, but
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So
we can
fine.
show you where we are.
And that's fine,
Right.
that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But like, let's celebrate the kids, but let's also have us think critically, right? And about exploring other ways to.
We're
Those
certainly
horizons.
working as a team with teachers on that.
Because
And-
Miss
and-
Lesky has
just
me
know-
paranoid.
What's that?
I don't mean to create paranoia.
No,
I just
I
feel like.
mean, if you're not seeing it in 7th grade, I'm worried, I'm concerned, because I'm not there yet.
Well, know that so to address the community concern, we will show you what that is a big focus for us. And it's a huge focus moving into the years that come up. There's a progression. Like I said, it's something that and there's a reason we had that on our.
Sure, of course. No, of
So
course.
it's, but that's fine. That's a good, that'll be a good.
Any other items for future agenda items? All right, hearing none, we'll close that off. We did, as I mentioned at the beginning, we did have originally a reason to go into executive session to discuss strategy for respect to litigation. That has been adjourned or tabled until another meeting. And so with that, I'll move to block I, which is adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we are hereby adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.